Morning, everybody. Just a sound check. Good seeing you all. Just admitting colleagues into the meeting, and we will start soonest. Thank you for joining. Morning, Kathy. Thank you. Glad to see you on the call this morning as well. Thank you for your support.
Morning, Harry.
Good morning. Are you well?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
Good. Thank you, Charles. Thanks for joining.
Morning, Gary.
Hi, Charlie. How's it?
Good and you, man.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Oh.
All righty, good morning, everybody. I think we should start. A lot of people are still joining in, and a lot of people are following on YouTube, and a lot of people are still going to join. But let's do a little bit housekeeping while the others are joining. Please remember to keep yourselves on mute. We're running this in a meeting fashion. During the questions and answer session, you will be allowed, when being recognized, to unmute and switch on your camera to ask questions to the panelists. We are going to, for most of the presentation, we're not going to encourage questions and answers during the presentations. We'll keep that for the end of the event when we have the questions and answer session. We might allow 1 or 2 questions after Natasha's presentation. She has to leave after her presentation. Unfortunately, she can't stay for the panel discussion. Ladies and gents, you're welcome to make use of the chat room to greet each other, share contact details, keep the discussions related to this event, please. But you're welcome to share contact details and greet each other. And also you're welcome in the chat room to post questions for the panelists. Many a times the panelists will answer your questions, in the chat room. But else we will, make use of the chat room also when we go into the questions and answer session. All right, so we would like to give recognition to our sponsors and so on. I would like to share my screen. So there we go. It's today, the 2nd of November, 2023. And we're talking about the new era of trade and logistics, challenges and opportunities. The world is changing rapidly around us, and there's many new challenges, exciting challenges in the industry. And our panelists are going to keep us busy today with lots of interesting information. And we've been looking forward to this for quite some time. Thank you very much to Global Trade Solution and the South African Express Parcel Association for hosting us today. We really appreciate also your time and effort in putting together this panel for us. We really appreciate that. So, as you have noticed, these events are complementary, all the Transport Forum events over the past 16 years. And we obviously have to have somebody that's paying the bill. And these are our associates and the Transport Forum Gold sponsors that's making this possible. And I would like to give recognition to them. But also we're going to have a little bit fun today again. Global Trade Solution kindly offered to sponsor 2 dinner meals to the value of 600 rands per voucher for the winners. So what we're going to do is, after I've introduced you to our sponsors and associates, we're going to ask questions, 2 questions. And the first person answering the question right will be the winner of the dinner voucher. And so lots of fun. So listen carefully while I'm busy. When we're done with the sponsors and so on, then we're going to ask some questions and see who's the 2 winners. So thank you very much for GTS for doing that. But yeah, so let's have a look at our sponsors and our associates. Let me just get my screen sorted. I'll do it in a sec. All right, so there's our sponsors and our associates, and you can see the Transport Forum's Platinum sponsor, C-Track. All right, so let's have a look at them. And obviously, you are welcome as the associates or sponsoring companies to interrupt me if you want to say a few words yourself on your organization. Else, I will just continue and doing my thing here. So, ladies and gents, we have formal associations, informal relationships with the Transport Forum. And these are South African Association of Freight Forwarders, the Road Freight Association, South African Express Parcel Association, and we've got the South African Bus Operators Association, the African Rail Industry Association, and SAEPA Stops Association, who recently also joined us. So let's quickly have a look at them. Our co-host today, South African Express Parcel Association, is a representative body and voice of the express delivery industry in South Africa, being part of the Transport Forum for many years. Thank you very much, Gary, and your team for supporting us. We really appreciate that. We've got the South African Bus Operators Association. You can see they represent the bus and coach industry in South Africa, played a vital role in the social and economic development of our country, public transport. We've got South African Association of Freight Forwarders, established already in 1921. It's a national association of members throughout the Republic of South Africa. They also shared the video with us. Let's have a look.
What does it take to compete on the world stage? To go head-to-head with the best of the best? Excellence, agility, resilience, the willingness to keep on evolving. It takes courageous leadership to be bold and chart the course, to connect the dots, bringing stakeholders together, to overcome the hurdles we all face, and to deliver best practice. It's about business at the click of a button, delivering at the speed of the internet, connecting people, products, and places, strengthening our supply chains, faster and more cost-effective than ever. Since 1921, we've given voice and vision to the freight forwarding industry, navigating the tides of international trade, evolving ever more sophisticated supply chains, bridging local and global markets to move our economy forward. Welcome to our world. The South African Association of Freight Forwarders, architects of transport for over a century.
Thank you very much, Saf. We've got the Road Freight Association. You can see they say with our trucks, South Africa stops. Thank you, Gavin Kelly and team, for supporting us. We've got the African Rail Industry Association doing lots of work, also to bring in third-party access to our country's railway network. Thank you, Marcella and your team. And the SAEPA Stops Association, uniting minds, sharing vision and resources, uplifting well-being, boosting road safety for South Africa's commercial drivers. Thank you, Nikki Scott and your team. Right, also have formal alliances with media houses. Obviously, there are many others also involved, but these are on a formal agreement. So we've got Freight News, Freight and Trading Weekly, and you can see they said news and features for import and export decision makers. Obviously, all about also logistics news. If you're not subscribed to these magazines, you're losing out big time. So, ladies and gents, let's support them. The African Railways Africa magazine, the Continent Specialist Trade Technical Business-to-Business online publication, covering all aspects of the rail sector. Thank you very much, Railways Africa. And we've got engineering news from Creamer Media. You can see the premier source of real economy news, daily coverage of South Africa's transport and automotive sectors, accurate and timely news reportage. They also shared the latest news with us.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Engineering News and Mining Weekly magazine, published on Friday, 3 November 2023. In this week's cover article, Engineering News and Mining Weekly senior contributing editor online Tasneem Bulbulia writes that Mintech's AmazeMet acquisition aims to support South Africa's additive manufacturing ambitions. Mintech's latest technological acquisition, the AmazeMet Repowder Ultrasonic Atomization and Alloy Development Machine, is an extremely advanced piece of equipment that is expected to strengthen and bolster the country's minerals-based and three-dimensional printing industries. The engineering news features focus on warehousing and storage, where a new warehouse is set to bolster a logistic provider's position in the sector. And business in Africa, where a boiler and steam generator supplier are servicing businesses across Africa. The Mining Weekly features focus on mine mechanization, modernization, and innovation, where a flame-resistant screen media innovation sparks safer mining. And project management, where better project management can improve a mine's capital productivity. This week's business leader is Niroshma Chetty, the CEO of Avon and Dadisa Peaking Power. And as this week's cartoon shows, as has been the case for several years and with several of his predecessors, South Africa's poor growth rate continues to act as the main constraint in enabling Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana to release the resources needed to ensure social fairness while maintaining fiscal balance. We hope you enjoy this week's edition of Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly. Be sure to subscribe to the magazine that offers you in-depth news about developments in the real economy by emailing subscriptions@engineeringnews.co.za. Happy reading and see you next time.
Thank you, Engineering News. Ladies and gents, our hosting company today is Global Trade Solution. Audrey Henning, I don't know if you want to say a few words this morning. Seems to me there's a technical problem with Audrey. Let me help out. So,
Good morning, Gary. Sorry, I was listening.
Hello, Audrey.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, morning. Audrey, you want to say a few words on Global Trade Solution?
Thank you, Harry. So I'm Audrey Henning from Global Trade Solution, and I'm very happy for all of you to be here today. Thank you very much for your attendance. So Global Trade Solution, software platform, software as a service solution that we're promoting, which assists traders and exporters with the imports-exports process. We are promoting the use of automation processes and working very closely with companies like the WCO and customs authorities, and yes, very closely with the road freight associations, so all the associations having to do with the industry of trading and exports. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you so much, Audrey. What a great company. Thank you for hosting us today. Really appreciate that. Ladies and gents, we've got our platinum sponsor, C-Track. You can see they've got a product called Crystal. So the Crystal software platform offers scalable modules that empower business to expand and succeed. These include video and camera surveillance, advanced analytics capabilities, and planning and EPOD, all on one platform, also accessible from mobile devices. Let's have a look at their video.
A lot has changed in the 4 decades that we've been keeping vehicles and business equipment safe and always visible. And we've learned a thing or two along the way. That's why our focus is firmly on the future. A future that goes beyond just tracking and reporting, challenging the status quo, and exploring what the power of technology combined with AI can unlock for your business. Because talking did not earn us the reputation of being the leader in fleet telematics solutions. Pushing boundaries with constant innovation did, and putting our customers first by asking, what if, what's next, and what's possible? For the power of foresight over hindsight to plan ahead and make smarter decisions. What if you could predict the optimal route to increase on-time deliveries and significantly reduce long-term maintenance? What if you could predict the best tractor speed on the day to reduce wasted spray and cover more ground with precision? Or if something as trivial as a few centimeters could predict the difference between maximum efficiency or maximum risk? Because in our world, and likely in yours too, having insights that can be used as foresight with a crystal clear view of the future is the only thing that matters to remain ahead for better control, better efficiencies, and better overall performance. It's the telematics and AI solution that goes beyond tracking and reporting. Step into the future with Crystal by C-Track and experience the power to predict.
Thank you, C-Track. Ladies and gents, University of Johannesburg, the Department of Transport and Supply Chain Management has actually been involved with the transport from since inception in 2007. So thank you very much, Prof. Jackie, Prof. Marlene, and team for also supporting myself, also mentoring myself quite a lot. I really appreciate your gold sponsorship. Standard Bank, also a gold sponsor for many years. Standard Bank, you can see they've got over 160 years of experience, and they believe that dreams matter and that together we can make them a reality. Let's have a look at the Standard Bank great video.
The group purpose is Africa is our home, we drive our growth. And driving Africa's growth goes to the nature of an institution that we are, which is an organization that is at the center of the economy, giving people the ability to pay, to borrow, to invest, and by ensuring their assets. We do all of this to fulfill that purpose of a financial institution, which is to help people to become active economic agents and contribute to economic growth.
We have found increasingly that we need to impact the communities that we operate in a very positive manner. We need to conduct our business in line with international best practices. We are signed up to the Equator Principles, which helps to protect our environment. We want to make sure that we're investing in infrastructure. We want to make sure that we're deepening financial services so that more and more people have access to financial services.
You can never provide a full service offering to the clients if you don't do so on the basis of an integrated Standard Bank offering, i.e. a universal bank. When we look at types of projects and companies and individuals that we fund, we have to be sensitive to the impact that they make on those communities. Do they contribute meaningfully? Are they ethical in their own behavior? Are they sensitive to issues of environment? Are they sensitive to the way they undertake and develop their own projects and initiatives? And Standard Bank believes very, very strongly in ensuring that ultimately the growth that we desire is a growth that benefits everyone.
We finance the building of airports, bridges, ports, which contribute to economic growth and contribute to the hard infrastructure that society needs for development.
How do we show up in such a way that is real and human in our customers? And it goes both ways. How do we see customers as individuals, but how do we also show up not as a monolithic bank, but as a human bank, as a local bank? And you might say that is a bit of a paradox because we are a universal bank. It's true, but we are a universal bank that feels local, that feels real.
Countries in Africa embrace democracy, embrace good macroeconomic policies, they will attract foreign capital, into their economies. And we as a group are well positioned to access those capital flows and also help drive investments in the right sectors.
Thank you, Standard Bank. We've got Bid Air Cargo, who fulfills the needs of the express cargo industry for daytime and overnight cargo capacity across a comprehensive Southern and East Africa footprint. Let's have a look at their great video.
In the world of express freight, there's one name that stands above the rest: Bid Air Cargo. Our airport-to-airport line haul service is the backbone of South Africa's express freight industry. At Bid Air Cargo, we don't just deliver cargo, we go the extra mile to ensure a seamless and efficient experience in South Africa. With our unwavering commitment to excellence and improved technology, we handle your cargo with utmost care and deliver it on time, every time. Our dedication to service excellence is what sets us apart. We live by our core values of service excellence, mutual respect, integrity, and accountability. When you choose Bid Air Cargo, you're choosing a partner that takes pride in going above and beyond for your freight needs. From pharmaceuticals to perishable goods, automotive parts to live animal transportation, we handle a diverse range of commodities. Our attention to detail and precision ensure that your cargo arrives in perfect condition, no matter what it is. Our dedicated teams work tirelessly to guarantee the safety and efficient transport of your cargo. We leave no stone unturned to ensure your freight arrives at its destination intact and on time. With our advanced track and trace system, you can monitor your shipments in real time. Stay informed about the whereabouts of your cargo with just a few clicks. Our goal is to provide you with peace of mind and complete transparency throughout the entire journey. We understand that time is of the essence for our valued customers. That's why we offer a user-friendly online portal that simplifies the documentation process. Obtain quotations and create e-labels with ease, saving you valuable time and effort. Whether you have a small package or a large shipment, Bid Air Cargo handles it all with equal care and precision. Our ISO certification is a testament to our commitment to quality and professionalism. We don't just excel in domestic express freight, we also cater to your international cargo needs. No matter the size of your business, whether you're a small enterprise or a multinational corporation, you can trust us to handle your cargo with the same level of dedication and attention to detail. Connect with us today and discover the difference our innovative technology, seamless tracking, and customer-oriented approach will make to your operation. Bid Air Cargo. Same-day express every day, overnight express every night.
Thank you, Bid Air Cargo. Another gold sponsor, Pegasus, changing lives, changing worlds. You can see they're a multidisciplinary strategic management consulting group that focus on cities, climate, energy, resilience, transport, waste, and water. Thank you very much, Pegasus, for your gold sponsorship. Unitron Supply Chain Solutions, innovation, expertise delivered. See, they're a leading provider of integrated transportation, warehousing, and supply chain-based services to customers with a variety of needs, offering bespoke value propositions in each segment. Thank you very much, Unitrons, for your gold sponsorship. JC Auditors, certification, compliance, one solution. You can see they are SANA's accredited certification body, providing internationally recognized certifications. Very important today in the world we live in, especially for self-regulation. Thank you very much, JC Auditors. Professional risk and asset management. You can see their products, RFID solutions, picking trolleys, all wearable solutions, artificial intelligence wearable solutions, warehouse soft automation, pallet socks, and so on. So professional risk asset management, thank you very much for your kind support. Right, we've got EasyClear. It's a leading software provider for the customs and clearing industry. You can see they provide software solutions for customs clearing, freight forwarding, and logistics providers covering air, sea, road, and rail. Thank you very much, EasyClear. Ticket Pro, they've actually got two products with the Transport Forum. This one is Ticket Pro Travel. It's an online booking tool. You can see they say there's no hidden fees, just good business with straightforward fair pricing. And it's online corporate traveling booking tool with everything you need and nothing you don't want. Thank you very much, Ticket Pro. Also, they have the Smart Tab solutions from Ticket Pro. This Smart Tab system includes key features like comprehensive route management, flexible passenger payment methods, flexible route and fare product setup, shift and dispatch management, cashier system, inspection tools, and comprehensive MIS reports. Thank you very much, Ticket Pro Smart Tab. Then we have Zutari, Impact Engineer, Consulting Engineering Group. Previously also Oricon, known as Oricon, been part of the Transport Forum for many years. Thank you very much, Zutari, for your gold sponsorship. Kuba, they transform ticketing as part of the IC Mobility Group, which enables public and private transport to move into the digital era. They say their ticketing solutions have been successfully implemented in over 100 cities and regions worldwide, dealing with millions of daily transactions. Thank you very much, Kuba, for knowing mobility. So ladies and gentlemen, that's our sponsors and our alliance partners. And thank you very much for your kind support. I think we can give them a good hand. But now let's do some fun work here. And I told you Global Trade Solution is sponsoring dinner vouchers to the value of 600 rands each for the winners of the prizes. And we're going to ask 2 questions. You can keep your chat room ready. So you have to answer the question in the chat room. And the first one answering the question right is the winner of the prize. So here comes the first question on one of our sponsors or associate partners. So question 1, I'm getting my screen ready to see who's answering right. So which bank has more than 160 years of experience? There we go, Michael Hennen. Congratulations, Michael Hennen. You're sharp on that one. All right, here comes the second question. Which airline fulfills the needs of the express cargo industry? So I can see there's a bit here, and it's Janice McNeil. Janice, congratulations. I'm just making notes here. Congratulations to our 2 winners. So Audrey Hennen from Bit Air Cargo will be in contact with you to make sure that you get hold of your dinner vouchers. Thank you very much, Global Trade Solutions, and congratulations to our 2 winners. Great stuff. Ladies and gents, I now just want to remind you about our business directory of the Transport Forum. This has been outsourced to Bolén Botley Consultant Company, Olga Mashilu. She runs it very well. And that's only 450 rands per year to get your company listed in this popular business directory. And we're getting very good feedback, on people being listed here. And you can go and look at the website. You can see all the hits these companies are getting. So get your company listed. It's only 450 per year. After this event, you will also receive an email requesting some feedback on this event. And we beg you to please do give us feedback, especially now we're busy planning for the program of 2024. And your inputs are very valuable, for topics that you need to address in future. But also in this email, we will ask you whether you want Olga to contact you to, arrange your listing in the business directory. So thank you very much for that thing. All right, so ladies and gents, just quickly again, the Transport Forum website is there for you to download the presentations. We will upload them to the website. Obviously, all presentations presented over the past 16 years been there. So it's more than 900 presentations you can download complimentary. How do you do that? On your screen, if you go to that website, you'll see there's a user login. You log in, and after you're logged in, you'll find a little search engine. And you go to events and downloads, and it's a simple search engine. Should you not have a login yet, an account, you can go to under the user menu. You'll see there's a sign up, and you click and select sign up. Take you a simple registration process. You can create your own complimentary account, and then you can sign in or log in. Go to events, downloads. Then you have a simple search engine. The search engine, you will see that in the top field, there are 2 ways you can search. The top field you can use to type in a topic, anything, or a person's name or surname, and even a date, or a topic like logistics or whatever, and you hit search, and it will bring up all the presentations, according to your topic. Or you can go to category, and you select category, and you select the day's date, and you hit search, and it bring up all the presentations for you to to download, all complimentary. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that brings us now back to our program. New era of trade and logistics, challenges and opportunities, till the 2nd of November 2023. And I would like to give opportunity to Louise Widget, our host for today, She's the Chief Executive Officer of Global Trade Solution, to do a formal welcome. Thank you very much, Louise.
Morning, Harry, and morning, colleagues. Fantastic to be on the Transport Forum again. As always, Harry, it's a big privilege and honor to be working with you. But I need to start today, and I think it's probably we all green in our hearts. So I just want to once again say congratulations to the Springboks. And since Harry is posting this on YouTube, I think we collectively can put our mics and our videos on, and we can give them a very big cheer for bringing this World Cup home. My only complaint is that they actually gave us all high blood pressure in the process. So very big green cheer to the Springboks. They are currently meeting with the president and receiving their local accolades, but I think they made us all proud. And now what we're just hoping is that we can bring the Cricket World Cup home and that we can get rid of our name as the chokers in the cricket side. Can you imagine if we have 2 World Cups here in the country? It will be the most amazing feat. And that is after our soccer girls made us so proud. So I think we're really, with all the challenges in the country, we've got some very good things, and it made my heart warm when Sia spoke so deep from his heart. And he's such a good example for all of us to follow and become the citizens of this country that can make a difference. So I'm again going to say, well done, Bokke. So Harry, as I said, great pleasure to be part of the forum. And again, very interesting topics that we're going to discuss today. So I'm going to hand back to you to be able to get the sessions going. And thank you again also to you and your team for the hard work, and already busy with the program for next year. So I once again want to make an appeal to all the attendees, liaise with Harry, because we want to really make the Transport Forum collectively something that you learn from, get information from that is relevant, and also discuss difficult topics. So we really would appreciate your input to shape the agenda for next year. Thank you very much, Harry, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Louise. Much appreciated. Great being associated with the Global Trade Solution brand and also South African Express Parcel Association. So talking about South African Express Parcel Association, Gary Marshall, who's the Chief Executive Officer of SAEPA, he agreed to do the opening address for us, and he's going to talk to us about Express Logistics QVadis. Thank you very much, Gary.
Morning, Harry. Morning, everybody.
Morning, Gary.
So, should I launch straight into it, Harry?
Please do.
Well, welcome, everybody. I think it's an interesting program. I'm glad I'm the first speaker because I think you're going to hear a lot of commonality from Natasha and Dietrich later on. But so my topic was QVadis. Where do we go from here? Where are you going to? And so it's a journey. You know, there's no endpoint in sight, and none of us have crystal balls. And there's been, over the last few years, so many disruptions, and our industry has grown through those disruptions. Let me give you an idea. In the very early stages of the development of our industry, one of the first major issues that came about was the just-in-time practice that the Japanese started to put out. And just-in-time meant, of course, order one, fulfill one. And that meant that you needed to rejig your supply chains so that you didn't have goods standing around and costing money, being made redundant, etc. And so things started to move fast. So if you go back to the sort of early 80s was the real first lift up to our industry, and that was a major disruptor. And along the way, of course, the most recent one being COVID, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But I think all of these things boil down to the need to have stuff now. As human beings, we have a natural sort of inclination for things to happen immediately. We don't want to wait weeks or indeed months. And I guess that's, to some extent, sums up where our industry provides its value to society. So let me share my screen and okay. You see it, Harry?
Perfect. Thank you, Gary.
Okay, so Quo Vadis. Where are we going to? So I think the first thing is we're going up in terms of growth. Allied Market Research, this is straight pulled from the web, estimate that in 2021, and I've cross-referenced this with other research houses, and so the numbers may differ, but not materially. So in 2021, globally, the industry was worth 380 odd billion US dollars, a couple of trillion rand, and they project with a compound annual growth rate of 5.7%, that will grow by 2031 to 658 billion. So that's a 72% growth, flat growth over that 10-year period. In South Africa, I estimate, and there are no official figures, but I do work with market researchers, particularly from Europe, where we try to estimate the value of the industry. In round about 21 post-COVID, it was round about 20 to 25 billion rand. And if you use the same growth rate of 5.7%, that'll bring you to 34 billion rand. In my view, it's probably going to be closer to 40 billion at that stage. The growth really has been driven by e-commerce and the demand for rapid last mile delivery. And that's the game that the Express Logistics plays in. And of course, Express Logistics goes by many names, many guises. So some would call it the courier industry. In Europe, it's known as the CEP, Courier Express Parcel Industry. And Express Logistics, I guess, is a more encompassing term because we're not only involved in pure transportation. So where are we going? I mean, the issue really at the moment is driven by the growth of e-commerce. And in South Africa, we need to be aware that in our minds, often e-commerce is kind of related to a parcel being delivered to your door as an individual. It's kind of, you think about Take-A-Lot, etc., or Amazon and so on. But the large part of e-commerce, and e-commerce's definition really is about any products or goods that are ordered electronically. So the biggest one still is B2B, business to business. And, you know, if you have a look at Alibaba and places like that with their massive trade portals, you can see why that's relevant. And then the one, of course, that affects us as individuals is business to consumer. And that is where the rapid growth has come from over the last while. And I think it was Gibbs locally that coined the phrase quick commerce or Q-commerce. And this is typically in South Africa, I guess you could talk about the 60/60s and the ASAPs and so on, where you can order and within an hour, it's delivered to your door. But it's not only restricted to groceries. If you have a look at what's happening overseas with Amazon Prime and so on, they're starting to look at in selected areas, or not look at, they're actually doing in selected areas, guaranteeing deliveries within 1 hour. Obviously, you've got to be in the location of one of their distribution centers. But again, as I mentioned earlier, that human need to want it now, have it now, really becomes apparent here. So Q-commerce at the moment in South Africa tends to be more around the grocery side, but it's changing rapidly. And I'll explain a little bit about that later. And then there's the interesting growth of C2C, consumer to consumer. And so if you look at platforms like Facebook Marketplace, for example, where consumers are putting their products out, moving them often through people like Postnet and so on to other consumers, that market growing fairly rapidly. And then the one that I've heard referred to as X2C, not to be confused with ecstasy, but X2C would be where you have multiple users using a common last mile delivery process. So for example, one courier might deliver for several different suppliers to the same address. And of course, it goes further than that, because you now start to look at Internet of Things playing a role. So when the courier delivers, does he also do some local sort of processing, i.e. unplug something? Maybe it's a router, for example, unplug the old router, plug in the new router for you. So you're starting to get not just a pure delivery, but you're getting a value add at the end of the delivery. So there's some interesting growth opportunities going forward in X2C. And of course, X2C, if you're starting to look, and imagine if you had a single courier delivering packages from both Skynet and FedEx, for example, and I mentioned them because they're on the forum today. But if you, one courier delivering for both of those to the same address, and that requires in the future a great degree of coordination and cooperation. But I think all of this is driven really by the demand for fast last mile delivery. And so last mile delivery, of course, been around for forever, but rapid last mile delivery is really the domain of the courier industry. And it's coupled with this need for information. Some of it is just a human condition, and some of it is really about business. So what it needs is transparency. You need to be able to see exactly what's going on. And it requires integration. So integration between suppliers, between your courier company, your couriers itself, the drivers themselves. All of these, the information needs to be integrated into a package and then become transparent to you. And of course, the predictability, and maybe that's not the right word, but for me, it's about where is my package now? And it's the kind of Uberization of the industry where, your courier is 5 minutes away, 4 minutes away, 3 minutes away, and so on. Again, that human need to understand. But from a business perspective, predictability is also important, because you're talking about getting stock into your operation that can be sold, or it can be worked on, or whatever. So predictability plays a really big role in information provision. And then there's the common thing, right? Track and trace. Actually, tracking is fairly common. It's been around for many, many years. I mean, the original originators of it, I think, were FedEx back in the 70s. And but something that is used loosely is the term track and trace. Trace puts a whole new meaning on things. So track is just normally barcoded. Sometimes it's manual, but you can track a package through its journey and you can record it. But when you need to trace it, something goes wrong. It's not there. Where is it? And I don't know. How many organizations have adequate tracing systems? And if you have a look at what the big international guys do and the way that they handle trace, it's a very, very sophisticated, a lot of software. So, and it's a lot of predictability in this. And how do I search for this? Where is it? Where could it be? And who do I contact? And if you take international organizations, you're talking about contacting the whole world to try and find something. So track and trace is used together, but really they are very, very different applications. And tracking is really quite easy. And of course, in the modern day thing is apps and a lot of development of apps. And then from a business perspective, data analytics and analyzing big data so that you can get your supply chains in line. And of course, AI is starting to play a role. And then there's the issue of blockchain. I won't go into that too much. We've got an interesting presentation later on today on blockchain. But it is also a secure mechanism for keeping data amongst participants in that chain to ensure safe delivery and so on of shipments. So technology and the need for information is critical. It's, in fact, I was listening to Andy Clark from Bob talking about logistics and e-commerce. And of course, e-commerce is not possible without logistics. And then you say, well, nobody wants logistics if it isn't accompanied by transparent information. So the other interesting phenomenon is the shift from postal to courier. Don't necessarily look at the South African situation where we've got a post office that's in agony. But right around the world, this is a global phenomenon. In fact, the statistics I've quoted here are global. So the major drivers, of course, are that traditional post letters have been taken over by electronic communication, emails and so on. I mean, how many people, if I asked this forum, how many people actually have been to a post office in the last few years, bought a stamp, licked it, stuck it on an envelope, put the envelope into a little red box and hoped that it came out on the other end? It doesn't happen anymore. I mean, I can tell you, I haven't done it in 20 years. So electronic communication has really replaced letters. So on the one hand, you're seeing letters decreasing in volume. And on the other hand, you're seeing parcels increasing in volume. And so the ratio of letters to parcel from a postal perspective, if you look at it 2005, 13 to 1, 2015, 10 years later, 4 to 1, and projected 1 to 1 by 2025. And of course, that renders postal authorities, unless they change their model, it means they are redundant. And if you have a look at the agonies, not only locally of SAEPA, but look at Royal Mail. Most mail operations around the world really struggling and having to reinvent themselves in order to be relevant. So that's a big change from the last 100 years of transportation. And of course, one of the other issues is the variety of service options. So, you'll find your local express logistics operator will offer you everything from a 1-hour delivery, a same-day delivery, an overnight delivery, or over several night deliveries, all related to speed and to price. Whereas the post office tends to be terminal to terminal or terminal to your post box. And on parcels, certainly post boxes, that you just get a slip in there if you're lucky. So the courier is far more flexible with a variety of service options. And then there's the issue of integrated logistics services. So you'll find your courier company able to offer you warehousing for your products, warehousing as well as distribution, and of course the tie-in of e-commerce platforms and so on. And I guess it's a more personalized service than the post office or post offices are able to render. So that's an interesting shift. In South Africa, of course, the post office almost become irrelevant over the last few years because they've just gone through such agony and are now, of course, in business rescue and so on. So that is a problem on its own. But they have a very well-devised strategy plan called the Post Office of Tomorrow. I think it's in disarray now because of their financial situation. But a really, really interesting document to read, and you can see the way that certainly was drawn up, I think, when Mark Barnes is still there. The need to change from the traditional way of doing things and coming up with a new solution. So you've heard the post office locally talking about, and the minister talking about wanting to become the e-commerce hub. And actually, if you think about it, they've got 4,000 post offices around the country. Their network is superb. Of course, the ability to implement is another story, and I won't go into that. But they've got the infrastructure to be able to do it, and that's what their plans revolve around. But there is this shift, and even postal, as it's traditionally known, is really gone. It's irrelevant. So technology and automation, I guess they go hand in hand to an extent. So everybody knows about drones, unmanned aerial vehicles. And there's a lot, you see lots and lots of pictures of Amazon zones dropping off parcels on people's porches and so on. Well, of course, UAVs have got a big role to play. They've got a big role to play even in warehouses, local drones operating down aisles of warehouses. They've got roles to play in getting to areas which is very difficult to get by transportation. I worry about the broad application of drones. I mean, in Johannesburg alone, there must be several 100,000 deliveries being done every single day. How many drones can you have up there? Even if you can overcome the legal issues that revolve around it, because they have to be registered, there's aviation restrictions, there's privacy restrictions, there's all kinds of things, but they're there and they're going to play an increased role in the way that business is conducted in the future. Self-drive vehicles are becoming more and more apparent overseas. And, you know, I've kind of thought about this on the South African side, and you say, well, you know, we've got so much unemployment. Why would we want to have self-drive vehicles? But if you talk to the guys at the RFA, there's a shortage of drivers in the country. So maybe this is not as distant a development as one might think. And then the role of robotics. And we've all seen cute pictures of little robots running around delivering packages, but they're going to play a role, no question about it. And one of the interesting things that I was looking at is, what do you do with the existing employees? So if you're currently a driver, a courier, how are you going to be retrained in the future? And the thing is about this industry is that, unlike most transportation sectors, the express industry has a very high proportion of backroom staff, call center staff, tracking, tracing, finance staff, salespeople, customer service people, et cetera, much larger than your traditional transport companies. So there's always opportunity for retraining and reskilling. And then on the automation side, as you grow, parcel handling systems and automated handling systems become critical. You can't manually do these things if you're going to survive. You all know about lockers and the role that lockers play. So locally, we've probably got two major ones, the one being Pudo, which is a product put out by, which stands for pick up, drop off, product put out by the courier guy. And then you've got DSV's locker boxes, which are at about 400 odd engine garages around the country. And they play a really important role in the delivery, in the last mile delivery. And actually, it's quite interesting because it creates new opportunities. For example, they were telling me that one of their biggest customers are repair people that repair household appliances. So a guy if he's based in a particular suburb or an area, doesn't have to go back to go and pick up parts from a centralized warehouse and spend half his time on the road. He can order the parts, it goes to a locker in the area that he's in, he clears it out of the locker and goes and installs it. So it's got all kinds of different applications. And then, of course, space optimization techniques, smart warehouses. You've seen, I have no doubt, if you're playing in this game, you've seen all of the videos that are available on smart warehouses and where it's going. But there's no question, as you grow, these things start to become a critical component of your business. And then, of course, we're going greener. The environmental sensitivities that exist are leading to much more responsible practices. And there are things like hybrid and electric vehicles. I mean, in South Africa, we're looking very seriously at hydrogen-powered vehicles. DHL have got orders in for electric airplanes. And then there's, of course, biofuels and so on, because we're a major contributor to greenhouse gases. So all of these things, we have to play this role. There's no question about it. And it's driving a lot of our thinking, particularly on the big international players. And where are we going? We're going to a more upskilled workforce. The interesting thing is we're creating opportunities for self-employment, particularly in the area of owner-drivers and so on. I mean, just look at 6060, about 4,000 self-employed motorcycle riders. We're creating opportunities for small business development. And what has happened is that, in fact, a lot of the large businesses have lost market share to small, often community-based businesses that are more agile, more reliable, and they're mostly cheaper. And communities like to support community-based organizations. So, locally, you can look at people like Delivery Kaspeed, which is a township-based operation delivering groceries and so on, and they'll grow. But of course, as they grow, all of the issues that made them great as a small business are going to have to be addressed to where they start to become more distant, more less personalized, if you like. So, but we're creating opportunities for small business development. These are community-based things. And so you can look at courier companies like Fastway, which has a major franchise type operation where each of their franchisees has an area and delivers in that area. So a lot of opportunity for business growth. Of course, big business is there and will continue to be there, and they've got some really big advantages. I mean, one of their biggest advantages is that they've got a network, they've got a delivery footprint. And not only have got the footprint, they've got the ability to connect that network together. And that's been put in. Some of these are global, some of these are domestic. So if you have a look at the DHLs and the FedExes and the UPSs and the Skynets and so on, they've got massive international delivery footprints. That is very, very difficult to replicate, very expensive to replicate. And the other thing that they've got is they've got volumes. And so in this industry, to be viable, you need to have a network, and then you need to have density of volume within that network to make it viable. So I see many times over the years where people develop a network and then they have to shut down half of it because they just can't make it pay. So volumes are critical, and this is why you'll see the continual acquisition trail that the large business are there is to buy more volume to feed the delivery network. And the smaller guys, to set up a network, a national network, not easy, and very expensive. And if you don't have the volumes, you're dead in the water. And then, of course, the big guys have got the money and the development, the R&D and the technology. They lead the way often, which the smaller guys are able to tuck in behind and copy. I mean, they spend, if you look at the big international guys, billions every year on research and development, and goes through everything from not just talking about IT systems or about apps and so on. It's about packaging, the way that to make sure that packages arrive safely and in good condition and so on. So there's a huge amount that the big business guys are doing, leading the way. Smaller guys tuck in behind and are able to copycat, if you like. So, of course, to end, where are we going? There are hurdles, legislation. You all probably know about the legal issue in South Africa at the moment between ourselves and Postnet and the South African Post Office on their claim to be the only ones that can deliver sub 1 kilogram parcels. And that legislation will go on for a long time. And then there's regulatory hurdles, and these are mostly local. So just to give you an idea, look at Uber, look at the e-hailing companies, where many cities around the world are banning them from being able to operate. And so we're seeing, even in South Africa now, local municipalities starting to say, hold on a minute, we want to be able to control who's on our roads and license them and so on. And so you're going to end up with dangerous, in my view, because you'll end up like a taxi situation with local regulations impacting on the business. And then, of course, costs, and particularly in South Africa, we were talking about high fuel costs, imported fuel costs, rand value implications, and so on. And then the cost of labor and so on. It's just all of this making a big impact. And to keep those costs under control is a massive hurdle. Security, particularly in the South African environment, but it's growing internationally as well. How do you look after these things? And then, in South Africa and other parts of the world. I mean, I spent some time in India, appalling road conditions. So those kind of things need to be addressed. So in conclusion, we have a lot going for us as an industry, but there are some hurdles. And of course, that's why we're all paid the big bucks, I guess, is to overcome these hurdles. So that's it from me. Thank you, Harry, and to everybody's patience in listening to me ramble.
Thank you so much, Gary. This was great. And to listen to your experience and knowledge in this industry, it's really valuable. Thank you so much, Gary. You've been talking about, fortunately, there's growth in this industry, and that is great. Also, the rapid last mile delivery, which is so important. And we can all see that on our roads, all the scooters and everything running around. So that's great. And then also more personalized service. It's reminding me of this fifth industrial revolution that's becoming more personalized. And it's always so interesting to keep an eye on the technology development internationally. And also lots of opportunities for business growth. And you also spoke about the hurdles, regulatory and so on, and that's obviously where SAEPA is playing an important role in the industry, as to represent this industry. So thank you very much for doing this important work, Gary. We really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing with us.
Pleasure.
Right, ladies and gents, let me just get our program up. Right, so our next presenter then is Natasha Permanent, and she's the Managing Director, Operations Sub-Saharan Africa, FedEx. And she's going to talk about our theme for today, the new area of trade and logistics, challenges and opportunities. Thank you very much, Natasha. We're looking forward to listening to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Harry. Good morning, everybody. Let me just share my screen.
Great, thank you.
All clear?
Yes.
I think, there's four trends that have emerged for businesses. There's, which present both opportunities and challenges. One is definitely the rise of e-commerce, innovation, digital intelligence, and definitely the needs for sustainability and international trade integration. Just getting to, in terms of e-commerce, we found that 2020, during the period of COVID, or when COVID hit us, and it was in mid-March, and we went through a lockdown, we found a lot of skepticism in terms of how we're going to continue trading. We knew about, as South Africa, we knew about e-commerce, we knew about the e-commerce platform, but we were not really a mature market. And broadly speaking, we saw a rise in e-commerce come 2020. What we didn't realize was the magnitude to which e-commerce was going to rise. I mean, with the emergence of e-commerce and a particular set of technologies arose. It had credit card payments, online connectivity. And in most countries, what happened was the pandemic actually cemented consumer confidence and trust in e-commerce as a business channel. I mean, I know I was very, very nervous. I didn't really enjoy using the online platforms. I really enjoyed going into a mall, and physically touching and feeling. Now I'm completely transformed and completely revolutionized in terms of using e-commerce and the online platforms. It's easy to forget that a few short years ago, e-commerce wasn't even part of our mainstream business. But now it's estimated that e-commerce represents up to 20% of US retail sales. And that's an enormous opportunity for emerging businesses in South Africa, as we have direct access to 20% of the US market remotely, using online marketing and e-commerce platforms. The World International Forum estimates that there are already around 264 e-commerce startups operating in Africa. And we predict that e-commerce will create about 3 million jobs on the continent by 2025. which is amazing. I mean, that's phenomenal, right? That's an entire paradigm shift in terms of the way we did business, the way we looked at things. 3 million jobs on the continent by 2025. Today, no retail business can afford not to consider building an e-commerce platform. I think we all can agree that every single business that we touch and feel has online access, which we can tap into from our mobile phone, from our laptops, from various devices. I mean, even now you can do it from your TV, because TVs are so smart. Now with e-commerce and the online mechanism of access, we obviously now needed to consider the other element of it in terms of payment. How do we actually now channel the financial aspects of this online platform? And that then led to online banking, microloans, agency banking, crypto and airtime exchanges, a whole host of other channels that was now opened up, digital vouchers, incentive rewards. I mean, the possibilities of modern mobile money are now vast, and e-commerce allows us to take advantage of that. And part of what makes e-commerce such a powerful platform is it's directed by and it's powered by financial innovation, which continues to happen as we speak. I think it's interesting. I was at a show in September where we looked at small business and e-commerce in terms of small business, and how does it, how does it open up opportunities? And when I was doing the research for this, I found it's amazing to look at the mobile penetration that drives e-commerce. I mean, the latest GSMA mobile economy figures estimate that there are 4.4 billion mobile internet users on Earth. I mean, and cast your mind back 20 years ago, our mobile devices were huge. We purely used it as a mechanism to contact each other, to have a chat, to phone. No one thought we're going to use mobile devices to actually run our lives. We have smartphones that access our calendar, that access our email. We do payments through our mobile. It's actually fascinating how we've completely revolutionized the online trading platforms. 4.4 billion mobile internet users equates to a penetration rate of 55%. And what that means is we have a 55% penetration rate of all population on Earth. The GSMA actually estimates that this will rise to 5.5 billion, or a 64% penetration rate by 2030. Think about it, that actually equates to 2/3 of the world's population. I mean, and that is almost mind-blowing. 2/3 of the world's population is going to have mobile access, who's going to use digital on their mobile devices to actually trade. In Africa, it's predicted that there will be 438 million mobile internet users on the continent by 2030. And that's a penetration rate of 32%. In July this year, July 2023, the South African government announced a commitment to partner with Telkom and other connectivity providers to ensure that 80% of the country's population is connected in the next 2 years. Now, we're probably thinking, what does that have to do with logistics? What does that have to do with us, being in the logistics space? I mean, generally, how would we trade? We would actually have people come in, fill in an airway bill, drop it off at our ship centers or our walk-in centers or at our facilities, and that's how we trade. Now, not only can you actually book your shipment in via your mobile, you can upload either your import clearance documents or your export clearance documents, via your smartphone, because it has camera access. You can track your packages. It's almost next level. So like how we have online e-commerce, you have to have your logistics provider as part of that supply chain to actually facilitate the trade that's penetrating the market. E-commerce presents a wealth of opportunities, reach, scalability, logistics, partnerships that are built in many platforms. But of course, in South Africa, we have our fair share of challenges. We have, load shedding, we have concomitant connectivity challenges. We have to overcome with solar, inverter solutions, but that just also shows that we are innovative in terms of overcoming our challenges. Another challenge that we have, when we enter the digital and globally connected environment, cybersecurity becomes a huge challenge. And that then tells us that we as service providers need to ensure that the people that we are supporting, we provide them a safe and secure environment online to actually trade with us. And we look at the online platform, we look at the era of logistics and how we've evolved, and everything is digital. It's a digital transformative journey that we are on at the moment. And if we don't keep up with the pace, we as logistics providers are going to be left behind. We got to be conscious of social commerce. We talk about e-commerce. There's social commerce. What is social commerce? Social commerce is, you have Facebook, which was a social platform to connect people that knew each other. Then you had Twitter, you have LinkedIn, you have Instagram, all social media platforms that was initially driven and created for us to actually get in touch with each other, to connect. Now what's been identified is that these social media platforms are actually opportunities to trade. So Facebook, for example, Facebook Marketplace reported $26 billion in revenue in 2021. 62% of Facebook Marketplace are reported to be women, whereas the Facebook users show that the demographics are men between the ages of 20 and 35. So now social media platforms are becoming an opportunity to trade, which means that we as service providers or logistics providers need to be ready to be able to adapt and service our customers to be not only digitally connected, but globally connected, right? Because with all these types of global connectivity, the world actually starts shrinking. And now you're not actually separated by geography, continents. We trade on these online platforms as if the world has completely shrunk. And we need to be equipped as logistics providers to be able to connect the countries and territories together so that someone sitting in rural Gauteng is in a position to provide their services that they are trading online to someone sitting in the USA or in Jamaica or in the Caribbean. And we need to be equipped to provide that service and connect people online. So, again, you got to look beyond the mega cities. You got to access local expertise. You got to collaborate. You got to test and learn. And it becomes important because the demographics of our shippers are changing. The demographics of our consignees are changing. Gary spoke in his last presentation about, logistics companies delivering groceries in our townships. If you look at the e-commerce shipping profile as well, it's moving from main centers to our outlying delivery areas. We need to be equipped to be able to provide access. And it's not just access in terms of goods, where it's recreational, but it's also pharmaceutical. Market access to medicine becomes fundamentally crucial. Something I spoke about was market access to medication, because 65% of our population in South Africa rely on public clinics. And majority of our population that rely on these public clinics are in our outlying delivery areas. So we got to look beyond the mega cities. One of the second opportunities for us in logistics is international trade integration. And when I talk about international trade integration, we're looking at, becoming more practical, less complicated, and shipping goods across national borders. And that's probably, that's it as succinctly as we can put it, is bringing trade, shrinking the borders and barriers of international trade. In Africa, this trend has been driven by progress of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, ACTA, and that's projected to boost intra-Africa trade by a significant 52.3% by 2025. I mean, and what does that mean for us? You know, but actually, before I get to that, you know, the Brenthurst Foundation notes that cross-border trades in goods and services in Africa has reached 56% of the global GDP, which is double what it was in 1990. So cross-border trade in goods and services has skyrocketed, which means we need to be there. The trade between China and Africa, for instance, rose from under 1 billion in 1995 to more than 120 billion in 2016. I mean, these figures are phenomenal. While cross-border trade is a proportion of all trade that's growing, global trade is generally slowing somewhat. So what does that mean for us? You know, you have supply chain bottlenecks that have occurred after COVID-19, but we've worked those kinks out. Shipping times are now back to pre-COVID levels. According to Fitch Ratings and air freight costs have come down. What's interesting is if you look at the 2022 cargo industry survey, you know, we always say South Africa is an import country. But if you look at the cargo trends in 2022, you've actually found the cargo trends have changed from South Africa being import heavy to actually being export heavy. I mean, the margins are quite slim, but it still shows that there's a change in the dynamics. We know that global networks have become more diversified post-COVID. And it's also become a lot more concentrated and a lot more sophisticated for global networks to reach our consumers. There are several, you know, we've already looked at bringing down trade barriers. And we know there's a huge opportunity for South Africa's small business to embrace the world market. I mean, you know, we know there's a lot of effort that's been put in by government in terms of SMME development and growth. We know that we as logistics companies are investing in the growth of our SMMEs. You know, Gary spoke about owner-driver models, but apart from just owner-driver models, we're looking to also look within the businesses, where else can we grow these SMMEs and give them an opportunity to become entrepreneurs. In terms of international trade, we've looked, you know, we know that US and South Africa, or US and Africa, the sub-Saharan countries have a very strong relationship. There's a lot of bilateral trade that's going on. I mean, if we look at AGOA, you know, if we look at the AGOA agreement, which is the African Growth and Opportunity Act, you know, the changes that are coming through from a US perspective, that just facilitates and talks to the fact that there's a huge opportunity for logistics service providers to stand at the shoulders, of our consumers and our customers. And we are fundamental in that entire supply chain of getting last mile delivery or getting goods and services from one end of the globe to the other. We also have economic partnership agreements, EPAs, between the SADC countries, the European Union, South Africa, you know, WTO, G20, BRICS. I was in a meeting with customs yesterday, you know, and we spoke about, you know, AEO, we spoke about the WCO, and we understand that customs clearance needs to be a lot more transformative. When we say transformative, it needs to be a lot more robust. It needs to be mature. You know, the customs clearance systems need to be completely integrated with each other. And we actually need to have the MRAs implemented and effected. So having it on paper is one thing, but to have it implemented so that we break down the barriers of seamless customs clearance is fundamental to, you know, logistics service, the success of logistics service providers, as well as traders or business or entrepreneurs being successful in their business. We know that the US is signing up with SA, so there's going to be a MRA between the USA and the US, with India, with China. I mean, these are your largest trade lanes from an Africa perspective. It's our largest trade lanes from a logistics perspective. So, you know, if we have the backing of the governments speaking to each other and aligning with each other, that then just starts also breaking down barriers that we are experiencing as logistics. So we're seeing even, you know, clearance, we're seeing the way we trade, the manner in which we actually operate as logistics providers becoming more digitally transformed to align with the trends and keeping abreast of the trends of the global market. You know, sustainability becomes fundamental, and it's almost top of mind now to every company, not just logistics providers, not just courier companies. And I mean, we've got to look at it in quite a basic form, right? Why are we as logistics companies taking such a serious view on sustainability? Why is it top of mind for us? Why is it at the forefront? It's because the mindset of the globe is changing. The mindset of the people that we are servicing is changing. We are becoming more environmentally responsible. And if our consumers, or the people we service, the people we engage with, our suppliers, our vendors, our customers, are now becoming more environmentally savvy and environmentally conscious, there is an onus on us to ensure that we are also on that train and that journey of transformation, to ensure that we are good corporate citizens from an environmental perspective. And, you know, we spoke about electric vehicles, we spoke about carbon emissions. I mean, in the previous presentation, we spoke about the need for sustainability. You know, global logistics is highly cost efficient, but operators are increasingly aware of their social and environmental responsibilities, which means that we need to relook at the way we do things. You know, we know transport can be a major source of carbon emissions. And then for anyone in the trade sector, the carbon footprint is determined by the extent of the logistics suppliers. So then it makes sense to partner with a shipping supplier that has a clear and advanced sustainability program, which sometimes means that we've got to look at cutting down on the bottom line, but we needing to do what's right for the globe, what's right, and align to the mindset of our supply chain stakeholders. So vehicle electrification, sustainable energy, and carbon sequestration become at the top of mind. You know, we as FedEx, we're very well aware of this. We launched electric vehicles last year into the marketplace and have committed that on an annual basis, we will be removing normal vehicles with electric vehicles. We have a water-wise green building at Johannesburg headquarters. And these are some of the things that some of the decisions we've taken at a global level. We've pledged $100 million into studying the field of natural carbon capture, where researchers will focus on ways to remove and restore the Earth's excess carbon emissions. So fuel sense initiatives become fundamental and pivotal to the way we do things. And then in line with not just what we are doing, we also need to encourage our customers to look at sustainable solutions, which means we need to offer them sustainable solutions. So our shipping solutions need to be sustainable. The packaging in which we provide needs to be sustainable. And that's something that, you know, we have to invest in. We as FedEx are investing in it, but we as a logistics industry need to start looking at that as well. Obviously, there's challenges to sustainability. It's the need to reconfigure systems, finding suppliers who have sustainable processes and policies. I mean, the short-term costs are quite excessive, right? But when we look at the cost, we also need to then balance it out with the fundamental changes that are happening rapidly. But then there's also opportunities. So you have the pros and then you have the cons. And some of the opportunities are obviously greater operational environmental and social efficiency and responsibilities, making yourself more attractive to international clients, which we know. And then easier international compliance, because the laws and the governments have put down quite strict regulations across the territories and countries that we service, in terms of mandating us to comply with certain of the sustainability and environmental laws and regulations. And then the fourth and last trend that, you know, I'm going to very, very briefly touch on, because Gary has spoken about it, and we know we've got other presentations in terms of this, but the fourth aspect, or the fourth era of what we're looking at in terms of the way logistics is being changed, is innovation and digital intelligence. And, you know, we look at disruptive technology, we look at AI, which is artificial intelligence, 5G. We know after this presentation, we've got someone speaking on blockchain, which is going to be fascinating. But the type of trade that's being conducted around the world has expanded from being mainly local or regional. And like I said, we're shipping globally. It's a global phenomenon over the last few decades. And that's because of advances in technology and transportation have helped businesses to expand their reach and connect the customers across our planet, which also provides reliable and time-definite shipping, right? So we know that we're on this transformative, digitally transformative journey. We know that it's the logistics sector that has been fundamental and pivotal in connecting the globe or the countries across the globe to each other, which meant that as we do that, digital transformation has to be ahead of the game, which means that as digitalization is transforming, we need to keep ahead. So it's almost a vicious circle of chasing each other. I mean, when we started as FedEx, 50 years ago, we had 389 employees. We delivered 186 FedEx packages to 25 US cities. I mean, now 50 years later, you look, wow, was that it? 186 packages, 25 US cities. But 50 years fast forward, we're a completely different organization, right? We're carrying around 15 million packages every day on our global air network. We have in excess of 650 cargo planes. We connect the global air and ground network. So we provide hybrid solutions. We provide access services and technology that meet the need of the world's global and growing shipping demands. So, I mean, think about 50 years ago where FedEx was, think about 50 years now where FedEx is. It's a completely different company with a completely different mindset and completely different solutions that are being offered. Innovation and digital intelligence have been crucial for the global logistics system and industry that we see today. The large-scale network combined with disruptive technologies such as artificial intelligence, data analytics, blockchain, you're continuously striving to develop new solutions, and that's what drives the logistics industry's future. Businesses require expedited delivery, which means we got to find ways to get things done quicker, faster, more efficient. Then I spoke about pharmaceuticals, which means we have to have temperature-controlled shipping. I mean, where would we think about this a few years ago? Increased security and special handling for sensitive packages, sensor-based technologies, which help provide, along with enhanced visibility and predictive capabilities, but it also provides, smarter choices for everybody, which means that you as the consumer have access, we as the provider have access. The end-to-end tracking of your shipments visible. We know exactly where it is at any given point in time. I mean, and that's how digitalization is transforming. I spoke about electronic customs clearance, which allow businesses to manage customs procedures with ease, reduces the risk of delayed shipments, but also web-based shipping tools, including picture proof of delivery services. Mobile solutions are also drastically simplifying the management of shipments, which we've spoken about when we looked at the emergence of mobile penetration. Then you have the ultra-fast 5G technology, right? Which logistics providers manage inventory and supply chains more effectively. So that's the fourth era of where digitalization, digital intelligence, innovation, that's the journey that we now on. That's the last chapter before we start a new chapter. But this is where we are now. Disruptive logistics technology in blockchain, which improves transparency in operations, tracks shipments easily, verifies origin and quality of products. The use of blockchain in global logistics and supply chain market alone is predicted to grow to $3.3 billion by 2026, which sitting 10 years ago, we would not have thought this. It would not have crossed our mind. But, and I'm very conscious of time, but I know that, we've spoken about 4 opportunities or 4 trends of what the logistics landscape is evolving to. These are the 4 trends that's shaping the landscape for us. We know that in 2 years' time, when we sit and have this discussion again, it's going to be different trends that's going to be shaping, which means that we need to be agile, we need to be pragmatic. But it's very, very important that we keep abreast of what is required, what is needed, what is top of mind for the stakeholders in that supply chain. And all these four aspects provide opportunities, but it also provides challenges for us. And like I said, if you look at the new era, it's an era that we never thought possible, where we are so advanced in terms of the way we think, the way we do, and the way we act. So robust, resilient global networks offer smart supply chain solutions and personalized delivery services. And with a commitment to sustainability, innovation, we define modern logistics that not only service the demands of today, but are well equipped to service the demands of tomorrow. So we're already forecasting, we're already envisaging what tomorrow looks like. And these are the various aspects that shape the logistics industry today. And I'm definitely certain that innovation, digital intelligence, and globalization is what's going to be shaping the industry tomorrow. So on that note, Harry, thank you very much. Thank you very much, audience, for the time and the opportunity to speak to you.
Natasha, we have to say thank you to you. We really appreciate your excellent presentation. And I don't know if there's an urgent question somebody might ask you, because Natasha is not available for questions and answers later on. So should somebody want to ask a question, you're welcome to unmute yourself, and then I'll recognize you. You can ask the questions. Else you can post a question in the chat room, and we'll make sure that question reaches Natasha. So let's just give them an opportunity.
Sure. And Harry, it's with pleasure. If you want to share my email address, if anybody wants to reach out, please feel free to reach out to me directly. There's no issue with that.
Thank you so much, Natasha. I really appreciate your presentation. I've made the summary if you presented, and clearly you can see why you're the MD at FedEx. Clearly you know what you're doing. Louise, do you want to ask a question?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Harry and Natasha. Always nice to hear the trends and where we are going. My question really to you is around AFTA, and do you think, that us on a continental level are really ready to explore those opportunities and possibly build some new jobs and new opportunities around the sustainability around the AFTA opportunity? It would be good to hear your opinion on that. Thank you.
Sure, Louise. I think that's a really, really great question. If you actually look at, let me take you to South Africa. It's a bit unfortunate that, we as the leaders of the African Union, we're still lagging behind in terms of our commitment to AFTA. Not just in terms of signing off, in terms of the different directives and the different areas, one of it being the financial systems. So transforming financial systems so that AFTA becomes workable. And when I say that, what it means is, how do we trade with each other intra-Africa through a seamless financial system or mechanism, right? South Africa seems to be lagging, which is quite disappointing for us. And there's various reasons for why we are behind the curve of our counterparts like Rwanda, Kenya, Ethiopia, Zambia actually as well. We're quite behind the curve there. And I'd like to say, I want to be fair to the South African government, because they've obviously clearly got a little bit different priorities at the top of their mind right now. And I say that tongue in cheek. I was actually sitting with the Minister of Public Enterprises a few weeks ago, and he spoke about public-private partnerships and, how do we help South Africa get Transnet and Eskom and, all these bodies back on track. And it was actually in July that we sat down and we spoke. And it's interesting that he's got such a transformative mindset in terms of what he wants to do. But it's almost, when we say transformative mindset, it's almost something that should have been done 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We say transformative because, he's the only one that's sitting with these type of ideas. But be that as it may, we are behind. But look at Rwanda. Rwanda is the fastest growing country in Africa. And that's basically on the back of many of the initiatives of AFTA. Kenya has become the eagle of East Africa. it's become the gateway of East Africa. And the initiatives that Kenya is benefiting from the AfTA agreement is amazing. You've got the M-Pesa system that they're looking at making the backbone or the rationale, using that methodology as a payment system in Africa. But I honestly think, if I've seen the successes of AfTA in terms of some countries, so it won't be the whole spectrum of everything that AfTA envisages, right? But there's various aspects in it or elements in it that have worked for some governments, some countries, because they've obviously been specific and intentional about what they want to achieve and what they want to get out of it. Rwanda being one of it in terms of its bilateral agreement with Kenya. And you've seen in terms of that trade lanes opening up the jobs and the opportunities it's provided. So I think if we're intentional about the agreement, I think if we're intentional about what applies to us and we make it work, and we give it the necessary time and due consideration that it deserves, I think it will. But again, there is a con to it, right? And the con to it is that it needs to be very closely managed. It needs to be very closely monitored. We need to be very conscious and cognizant about opening up our borders in terms of what that's going to mean. So there's a people element of AfTA, but there's also the goods and services element. So I'm more leaning towards the success of the goods and services agreement, but being very, very, very conscious of the people aspect of it.
Thank you so much, Louise and Natasha. Thank you, Natasha, for a great presentation. We really appreciate your time in preparing for this, and we look forward to seeing more of you with the Transport Forum in the future.
Thanks, Harry. Thanks, Louise, for the question. I wish you a fantastic day further, but please do reach out if there's any support needed.
Thank you, Natasha. We will do. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gents, I would like to put Louise Richard on the spot. She's our host also for today. And Louise is the Chief Executive Officer of Global Trade Solution, and she's going to talk about, is blockchain still relevant for trade? Thank you, Louise. Louise, you're still on mute.
Well, I think by now I can get it right there, Harry. Thank you very much, everybody. And Natasha, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate the inputs and the comments that you made. I think it is very valid. We are way behind, and I fully agree with you. I think East African community is really has taken it by the scruff of the neck and is doing some amazing work, very much on trade liberalization. The Kenyan president has just announced another raft of doing away with visa requirements across the continent. So they really have got their ducks in a row. And I think us collectively, from a trade perspective, need to hold hands and start holding our Department of Trade and Industry and also the other government agencies accountable for making sure that we don't lose out on this wonderful opportunity. But both Gary and Natasha has now led very nicely into blockchain and put a huge amount of pressure on me. So I really want to talk about whether blockchain is still relevant from a trade and customs perspective, because when blockchain started about 12 years ago, there was a lot of hype around it and also a lot of misunderstanding. But I think what has happened now is that it's calmed down a little bit, and we do all at this point in time understand the difference between Bitcoin and blockchain. And I really want to share some experiences and some learnings that we've had and just illustrate the power of this technology, because I'm a big blockchain fan. I do believe it is one of the technology products that is going to drive innovation into the future. And I do believe that as the maturity of the technology happens and it migrates onto our continent, we are going to see huge benefits. But it is also going to be incredibly disruptive. So there is definitely growing interest. More and more blockchain solutions are being developed for the supply chain environment. And it really has got the potential to innovate and change this environment. I want to show some of the new innovations that's happened and some of the success stories that we've had, and then also touch on the customs side, what is happening on that side. There's a wide application of blockchains now in the supply chain, trade, and customs environment, which is really amazing because it keeps us current. The introduction of things like smart contracts has been phenomenal because it created that bigger sense of security and trust. There has been failures, unfortunately. The discontinuation of the trade lanes initiative, which I believe was actually way in front of its time, which was a partnership between IBM and Maersk, and then subsequently only with IBM. That was a very big disappointment. But that also created the opportunity for a lot of new innovative solutions to step into that gap. And those new innovative solutions are really the ones that are coming to our continent and our part of the world. If we look at the agricultural side, very interesting. Blockchain has really found a big niche here. And obviously from a supply chain perspective, this is very important for us, because as operators in the international and in the local supply chain, agriculture and food supply is critical for all of us. We were referring to 60/60. I mean, what a phenomenal success story. Who thought that it would be fantastic to get your groceries, your milk, your bread delivered in a brown paper bag to your door? And that is now happening. And I think that is a wonderful opportunity. And I think Gary touched on it, where we can use that for the last mile to look at how we can create jobs. I think it is a fantastic environment for the young people, and the blockchain technology has been applied and really makes it easy here. So agri-digital is an example where blockchain technology is being used. It verifies the organic status of the product, and it also gets all the commodity people together on one platform. And very interesting, and this is a concept that's coming through more and more, is that the finance element of the supply chain is being linked in the blockchain solution. Now, that's a trend that has only come through in the last 2-3 years, but it does make it more powerful because it means that you don't only buy and sell, but you can also get your finance through the same platform. Intel, also another good example, where they partnered with the independent blueberry distributor. They're tracking, as Chantal mentioned, they're doing temperature tracking, harvesting, storaging. Everything is being done to ensure that the product is fresh. And again, then looking at some of the new other technologies, battery operating smart wireless sensors devices that they apply, and that feeds information into the blockchain solution, which means you as a consumer have got direct access to see what is going on with your product, where has it been, and is it actually being kept in a good state. TechRock, I think with the recent, about 2-3 years ago, there was a big matter that happened with baby formula, where they discovered that melamine was added to the baby formula. It was a massive problem. A lot of products had to be recalled, and TechRock has now put a solution, again, a blockchain solution in specifically for this particular product. And parents can go onto the solution to actually confirm that the product is authentic. And I think that adds an extra layer of complexity, especially to the e-commerce guys, because now you need to ensure that not only do you carry the product, but that you do carry the right product, because if a product gets swapped out in the process, the end consumer will be able to pick that up very quickly. One of the big success stories and the area where IBM has actually really continued with their blockchain solution is their food trust solution, where they partnered with Walmart, and they are linking all the food supply people onto this. Walmart actually decreed that all their suppliers had to join the solution, and it actually helps them to track the food, make sure that it gets there in a good condition. It also reduces food waste, and obviously it enhances consumer trust. So this is really one of the blue chip solutions, and actually it's also been used here in South Africa, because obviously Macro is part of the Walmart group, and they have been onboarded onto that solution. So very good examples. Natasha touched on pharmaceutical, and this is the one area where I'm actually surprised that there hasn't been a lot more blockchain development that has happened. Pfizer has done a fantastic blockchain solution where they are putting all the medicine now onto the blockchain. You can actually look whether the medicine is counterfeit. And I think for Africa, this is one of the things that we really need to keep our eye on. I wasn't aware of the fact that counterfeit drugs in Africa is huge. And I mean, you literally cannot see it on the packaging or even in the tablet. It's really just if you break that seal and you are able to check that you can see whether the product is counterfeit or not. So it's very important. And then also critically here is that sensitive data is protected. So in other words, where's the product going to? Where's it being delivered to? And this again links up again with the last mile delivery, where you possibly now can get your medicine being put into a DSB box, and you can go and collect it at your leisure at that particular box. Very important here also is recall. Obviously, both with food and with medicine, if you've got a recall, it's an absolute nightmare. We recently had an example with Tiger Brands that had to recall some of their baked beans. Having been part of that recall, I can tell you it was quite an exercise, because it wasn't just in the local market, they also had stuff internationally and in the cross-border markets. If we had a blockchain solution, we would have been able to identify the affected products much easier and action the recall much quicker. Other industries, I think Everledger is probably the first blockchain solution, but they have continued to use it, and they've actually also added quite a lot of new functionality. The initial idea was really just to prevent black diamonds coming onto the market. But now virtually every single diamond in the world is on the Everledger blockchain solution. And it also can tell you the origin and the authenticity of the thing. So any of the ladies or gents that are going to getting engaged shortly, you know, diamonds are a girl's best friend. Make sure that you check that the diamond that you're buying is actually authentic. Then something that I didn't expect, quite a big development that has happened is in the fashion industry, where there's been quite a bit of collaboration within the fashion industry. And the Martin Lielgart and Fashion Innovation Agency is actually quite an innovative one, where they are now, you know, when the brands launch their summer or their winter catwalk shows, those designs needs to be literally guarded, because that is the new trends and the new things that's going to be shown. They have developed a blockchain technology where they actually mark the garments, and it is loaded onto the blockchain solution. When it gets released onto the catwalk, it obviously goes into the public domain, but they can also then track where the copies are made and if knockoffs are done and everything. So it's really a fantastic initiative. Forbes have described this initiative, the first example of truly beautiful wearable tech. So it just shows us that even in the garments that we're wearing, blockchain is beginning to play a role. Cartier, Prada, and have launched the Aurora Blockchain Consortium, which was really the first luxury blockchain that was launched. And every single product has got a digital identifier. You can look at origin, the components, and very importantly here, and I think both Gary and Natasha touched on it, environmental and ethical information, and then naturally proof of ownership, warranty, and care instructions. Now, I think environmental and ethical information is quite an important aspect that we need to be able to consider going and working in the supply chain going into the future. There's such a lot of pressure now. Legislation has been passed both in the US and in the EU around ethical labor practices. And we are really struggling both at the WTO and at the WCO of how we can incorporate this legislative into the supply chain process and let that data flow through the supply chain. And this is really where the world of customs and trade is beginning to overlap. Origin is a good example. I mean, why must I now do a declaration of origin to the customs authority where the Customs Authority can go and verify my origin on a blockchain and a trusted blockchain solution. So there's going to be interesting developments in this space. We are joining the World Customs Organization next week in Chile on the Origin Conference. And we are really going to tackle the question around how can we ensure that origin is managed through the use of technology. And in my opinion, again, here, blockchain would be the only way to do it. If we look at internet from an international trade perspective, one of the innovative companies that has really done remarkable work, and they're also doing quite a bit of work in Africa, is CargoX. And this is particularly around documentation and ensuring that documents can be uploaded and then used throughout the supply chain. And this is not only used by trade, and Gary and the people from the express cargo business, it can also be used by yourselves, but then very importantly also used by the Customs Authority. And this is again here where our worlds are colliding, and we are going to have to realize that we can't have these pockets and pillars of information. With a blockchain technology, it means that every single person can get a bit of the information. It is trusted and they can use it, and we don't have to replicate it. CargoX was awarded the most inspiring solution in the digital awards this year. So really a company to watch, and you'll see a little bit further in my presentation that they are actually now operating in our continent. Over and above the fact that we're now digitizing the paper, we are also saving the forest because we don't have to print so much pieces of paper and also store it. CargoX allows the whole supply chain to participate in the trade documentation process. And they've also incorporated digital, smart digital contracts. They even allow the banks to come onto the system, very user-friendly, compatible. And I think what is the most important thing is that they've got open file formats, which means if you, for example, from a FedEx viewpoint, you want to integrate into their solution, it is possible to do it. And this is very much the communities that has been created around these blockchain solutions, where everybody can now both get data and feed data into the solution. Again, CargoX has been operating to ensure secure, transparent, and efficient way of handling it. They recently signed, and as this is as hot off the press as you can get, Harry, 21st of October, they signed an agreement with the Republic of Uganda. And again, a sign, this is the first adoption of blockchain technology further down on the continent. There's been quite a bit of development in Egypt and in Morocco, but Uganda has now adopted again the CargoX platform, and they're going to be using it to get all the export documentation done. Very interesting development that has happened here. Again, they look at promoting economic growth and very much have their eye on the AFTA opportunities that's been created, and want to ensure that exports can be facilitated and pushed quite aggressively. If we then look, as I mentioned before, there's also opportunity now to use the blockchain platforms as payment gateways, and also over and above payment gateways, also for financing. And this has been very successfully done by Standage, a Tokyo-based logistics and supply chain company. Again, very recent development where they're using both payments and goods on the blockchain technology. Very interesting development, and we're keeping a very close eye on this particular development, because it is one of the first that has happened in combining these processes into one. And we're very keen to see how that is going to be adopted on the African continent. Natasha mentioned that the problems that we've got with payment gateways in Africa, this is a good example of where we can actually work together. Now, if we look at a customs perspective, and Harry, I'm going to run slightly over because I think I lost about 5 minutes, so if that's okay. From the customs world, it's actually been very interesting, and I'm just going to show everybody. This is a recent report that was done by the World Trade Organization and the World Customs Organization around disruptive technologies, and it includes a very big chapter on specific blockchain. So blockchain has been realized within the customs world that it can actually tackle quite a lot of their problems and also can enable greater trade facilitation. And this is why there's been quite a lot of push from the customs authorities to start either adopting the technology or start looking at how they can incorporate this technology into their world. Very good example that was shared with us last year at the WCO Technology Conference from Dutch Customs, and specifically around the express cargo business, where they just said the volumes have grown so exponentially that it is absolutely impossible for them to manage it. They developed a blockchain solution where they are now using a collaboration with companies like FedEx, DHL, and those, where those companies are providing information directly to customs. And that information is actually coming from their clients, so that the information flows from the clients to the logistical service provider and directly to customs. This is especially around things like pictures, origin, componentry, and this allows customers to build up that database within their own environment and then run their risk engines over it. I mean, interagency cooperation and exchange of information is a very good area where I think a blockchain solution can be fantastic. Very good example right on our doorstep is we currently have SARS and the Border Management Agency. They have to share certain information. We, from a trade perspective, definitely don't want to be stopped by the two agencies individually. And the technology that can enable them to share this information in a safe and secure way is blockchain technology. Another good example, and this is particularly around AFTA, is the electronic certification and verification of origin. We really don't want to fill in papers anymore and have to get them stamped. We want to do it electronically. And again, here we are urging the companies and also the AFTA Secretariat to start looking at using blockchain technology, like in the case of Cartier and Prada, where we can put the products onto a trusted platform. The origin can be declared by the manufacturer or the supplier, and everybody in the supply chain can then use that. And then obviously one of the biggest things that we are struggling with today is data quality. I mean, anybody that works in the customs world and in the trade world will know that the quality of the data that we have is problematic. We very often don't even have a proper description of the product, what to say, the weights, the cubes, and we believe that with the blockchain technology, we will be able to improve that quality of that data quite a lot. Just to give a bit of a perspective on what's happening in the customs world, most of the major projects are being done in Asia, Europe, Caribbean. And good news is there's two administrations in Argentina and Uruguay that have done a full adoption of blockchain technology across all of their customs solutions. So it shows you what can be done. And both of these countries have been running the blockchain technology for about the last 3 years, very successfully. And it's really made a difference in the way that they deal with their customers and trade facilitation. Some good ongoing projects is in Italy. They've launched a blockchain solution called Trick. I don't know if it's Trickle and Treat, but again here, Italy manufactures quite a lot of high quality products. Very much the same as the Prada situation, you can actually certify these products and identify them. Georgia, a country which launched actually one of the first blockchain solutions, and that was around the transfer of property, can you believe it, in Georgia was put on a blockchain solution about 8 years ago already. They have now launched a preferential certificate of origin scheme. China and Singapore is working on a massive project, which is an international single trade window for interconnectivity. Really what they're doing here is exchanging information. They're improving the port business environment and focusing very much on trade facilitation. And then a very nice example closer to home is the Cadena project, where a whole host of the South American countries are working together to allow for the registration of the approved economic operators on one platform across the region. And this is something that's very applicable for Africa, AFTA, SACU, SADC, where if we can take this approach and actually adopt this technology, the workload for all of us across the continent will be reduced quite a lot. So in conclusion, I do believe that blockchain technology is still relevant, still going to change our world, and is changing our world on a daily basis. It creates an unprecedented level of transparency and trust. It allows for authentication and innovation, and it also creates a secure and transformative environment. So, Harry, on that note, thank you very much for the opportunity to share, and I hope the audience found it informative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Louise, for this great presentation. And it's interesting to hear that, yes, there's some life for blockchain in the future. I see Gary has got his hand up. Gary, you want to ask a question? Or are you just cheering?
No, I was just cheering Louise on. Love the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gary. I know when I climbed on my soapbox the first time with blockchain, everybody thought I'm crazy, but I still believe very much in it. And I see we've got a question from CR Day, who actually asked, how can blockchain be used for AEO? So CR, the Candina example is a very good way where those countries have actually got together, developed one solution, and if you apply for AEO, all this information is submitted onto one platform, and each of the countries will then do their own verification, but you only have to do it once. And I think that is the biggest benefit. And naturally also the security and the protection around the information, because in the AEO program, you do expose your company information and quite a lot of sensitive information. And one wants to ensure that it is treated with care and it is very much safely protected. So I hope I've asked that question. And then Mark Pearson has asked.
Sorry to interrupt. Can we keep the questions for the panel discussion?
Perfect. Thank you, Harry. Over to you, Harry. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you for the questions as well. Okay, guys, you can see we've got actually now time for a short break. We're not going to take a 15-minute break. We're going to take a 5-minute break. And then we're going to have a very great, another great presentation from Carsten Schubert. It's going to talk about the migration to an integrated transport world. And also, Diederik Stopwolf is going to give us a view into the future for trade and logistics. So let's take a 5-minute break, grab that coffee. I'll see you just now. Thank you very much. Right, everybody, let's take up our seats again. We're going to continue this great session. And
yeah, morning.
Morning, Carsten. He's the business director of Africa. He's going to talk to us about the migration to an interconnected transport world. Thank you very much, Carsten.
Good. Thank you. Just want to see if I can share.
You're welcome.
There we go. Right, please let me know if you can see the slide deck.
We can see it. You can just go to slide view.
Okay, perfect. Good. All right, well, good. All set to go, Harry, whenever you're ready for me to kick off.
You can go. Thank you. Thank you very much, Carsten.
Okay, great. Thanks. Morning, everybody. Just want to share with you the migration that's happening to an interconnected transport world. And I think more importantly, what does it mean for you, specifically aimed at the transport industry? And either you can embrace the technology and avail it to the partners, or you can't, and you'll probably end up being left behind. So just a couple of things before I kick off. A lot of what I'm talking about is going to be reference to a US conference that I attended recently. Terminology they use is a shipper. I'll talk about a shipper. That's really a manufacturer or a customer. So in your world, that would be a Unilever, a Tiger Brands, ABI, or AB InBev type of person. That would be a shipper. And a carrier is not someone with Ebola or COVID. A carrier is typically what they would refer to as a transporter. So if you hear me using those terms, please just kind of substitute them in your minds for this discussion this morning. So what's driving this shipper's fast evolving desire for digitization? So if you think of it, 40 odd years ago, manufacturers or shippers used to do everything themselves. They used to manufacture, they used to transport, they used to do all those components themselves, and they had effectively control and visibility within their own operations. Current trends are more and more companies are outsourcing activities, everything from toll manufacturing to packaging to even manufacturing some of the goods in their apparel space, and the companies are focusing on building brands, customers, owning the customers and the customer service levels. So what that means is with all this outsourced activities, and transport happens to be one of the biggest outsourced activities, typically between 10 and 15% of the spend of what a customer or what a shipper has. They equally want that visibility and control because they need to manage an entirely more complex supply chain with outsourced partners. And that is just getting more and more. And as per Gary's presentation, the number of parcels delivering, markets are growing. As you throw scale and complexity at these items, you're going to have to digitize more and more. The second component that's driving it is just businesses are needing to be a lot more agile. Some of the previous speakers spoke about the disruptions that we've experienced, be it COVID, be it the Ukraine war, be it the any other geopolitical events, climate events, etc. So those are really the two key things that are driving shippers, and shippers are kind of driving the process for us as logistics professionals. So I took some key takeouts for this presentation that from a conference that I attended in the US last month from Meet Open. So I'm really going to save you all the jet lag, all the bad food, all the expensive whiskey, and I'll just give you a précis of some of the takeouts that I think are relevant for this. So one of the speakers at that conference was from KPMG, and they were speaking about the market disruptors and the opportunities in the markets. So I'm not going to touch on everything here. You'll get the deck as part of the handout. But I mean, if you take a look, there's 5 real-time disruptors in today's supply chains, ranging everything from customers' preferences and customers becoming more and more demanding. This huge focus on ESG, migration to omni-channel is a big thing, and going more and more to digital technologies. And equally, customers are faced with fluid market dynamics, so greater consolidation, i.e. buying out competitors, Should they be nearshoring? They don't want to be caught out with these long supply chains that we were talking about earlier, that Natasha was talking about. But perhaps, in uncertain times, it makes sure to maybe keep some of your product closer to the point of consumption, or some of your goods and services. And then, the trade-off between low risk supply chains versus low cost supply chains. So, those are things that the shippers are grappling with, just around labor, US sitting with labor shortage, driver shortages, etc. We've touched on the geopolitical, and then obviously the big impact is CO2, which I'll touch on a bit later. And all of this is then, these shippers are looking to technology, and there's new platforms out there, blockchain that Louise spoke about. So all these are major disruptors in the shippers, which us as logistics professionals, we all servicing shippers. That's what they're faced with. And it's crucially important that we understand. If we understand what our shippers are being faced with, then we can respond accordingly. So with the disruptions come opportunities, and the opportunities are really around visibility. And the common theme that you're going to pick up in this discussion today is all around visibility. And then the ability to restructure, i.e. what is the restructure that these companies should be looking at, and collaboration opportunities to de-risk. And then most importantly, they're going to be using technologies to drive a lot of this process. So technology is going to be at the core to deal with all this complexity and all these disruptions that people are facing. And if you take a look at the kind of single platform for transportation and trade that's being positioned out there by multiple vendors, this happens to be a E2Open one, but I think there's multiple vendors of that. You can see all the different components of the logistics around a supply chain being active participants, and each one of those could be a separate company, and within that company there could be multiple participants and multiple IoT devices, etc. But effectively, everything's being pulled into, shoved into a data lake, and then being pulled out of that. So the key components to keep in mind here is where your customers are going. Our customers as logistics professionals, they're looking at control towers, single type platforms, but for that, they need us as logistics professionals to participate. And what do they need? Most importantly, they need data. Integrated, so real-time, transparent, and accurate. That's if every one of these participants can provide that, provide it freely and reliably, then these type of platforms work. And these companies are spending a lot of money on these platforms. So, that's not going away. So what I'm talking about, this concept is already here. These technologies are already in place. And if I take a look at what E2Open are positioning from their technology platforms point of view, really going from this non-integrated, poor data, siloed mentality, misaligned priorities, disconnected decision-making, and very reactive, i.e. where's my what and how am I going to fix it, to modern supply chains, a lot more integrated. Data is harmonized, it's accurate, it's decision grade, and decisions are being made, and it's kind of the whole supply chains are moving to proactive. And proactive not just with a people base, but using AI and machine learning to get to that. So, i.e. using predictive analytics, what is going to happen, and then prescriptive analytics. So if this is going to happen, what is the best option that I have? And again, what does it need? It needs data, i.e. data, transactional data, from a tracking point of view, but also a whole bunch of other data from logistics professionals, even such things as rates. And you will see that come through. Again, the whole lot is driven by visibility, because visibility is driving decision making. And if you think about these control tower platforms, they no longer just one person sitting like on the Starship Enterprise having a view. These are on people's laptops, on people's phones throughout the world, or in an organization. And they're all looking at one version of the truth. And this trend where we are in at the moment, this WhatsApp groups where everybody's on 20 or 30 different WhatsApp groups, in the fullness of time, those WhatsApp groups are going to disappear, because shippers are going to force everybody to work on the platform for them and take away those WhatsApp groups. So there's one version of truth and one single line. And they can only work with that. Again, all the data has got to be real, it's got to be visible, it's got to be reliable. And here's an example of what I'm talking about. So this is the kind of tech that's going to be these workflow guided decision makings. So on a platform, there's a shipment going, there'll be an alert that comes out. Okay, keep in mind, this is an interconnected platform. So you say, well, what is that alert? So hang on, well, the alert is there's an issue at the transship port causing the delay. Okay, so this is system generated, not people generated, because it's linked in to multiple service providers in this process. So you have an alert. So that then says, well, if there is a delay, what is the impact? Well, the impact says there's going to be a product shortage on the 30th of April due to the delay. And this is then where the prescriptive analytics comes in. And the prescriptive analytics will then say, well, what is the decision? And the decision is change the tracker to the last leg. And I don't know if you can see there, but it's got multiple options that it can choose from. And in order for it to have multiple options, all those options have to be fed by the logistics service providers out there. So when we talk about making data available, we're not talking about just making, hey, where's my dot on my map? Okay, we're talking about real-time rates, real-time capacity availability as well in this process. So all this leads to something that looks like this. It's global logistics orchestration. So again, you look at all these components from air, road, intermodal, rail, all these components need to be feeding a digitally information into a platform, and that platform is then used. Again, remember, where the world is migrating to is this prescriptive analytics. So tracking is kind of, although 20 years ago, 15 years ago was a thing, it's moving on to a next chapter and a next journey in this process. Additionally to this, if you take a look at where the just on the road trucking space is going to, this is from a company called CH Robertson, who's a broker in the US transport brokerage. Now, traditionally, you upload rates in their system, and even TMSs in South Africa are very often driven by, go to RFP, load up rates, or even all the customers, they'll have it in their SAP TMS or wherever they're holding it. Where it's going to now is people are updating real-time rates. So you have to provide real-time rate tables to the likes of CH Robertson. And interestingly enough, if you have a rate in the system, they make the assumption that you have a truck available. So that's how real-time you've got to be. Because if there's a rating system, they're going to say, I'm going to buy it. In the same way as when you climb up to booking.com and you want a pair of sneakers, you see the sneakers, you see the price, you assume that there's inventory and you buy it. In the same way as your truck availability on rates on lanes is going to be treated like that. And with this is a lot of information and algorithms that drive these processes and scoring mechanisms, which I'll talk about a little bit later on in the discussion as well. The other challenge that's going to be facing transport is that we need to get our heads around, okay, is everybody's coming up, say Amazon, all your shippers out there are coming up with different platforms. So some are using different types of TMSs, others are using TMSs plus mobile apps. And what you're starting to find and see in the marketplace out there is that if you've got 15 different customers, besides perhaps the less sophisticated customers who are still sending you an order via email or via WhatsApp, is that once you're migrating to technology, we want you as a transporter to interact with that technology and also with that app. So conceivably in the transporters, they've got transport controllers who have to log on to a customer-specific app. They've got to have a different guy on the next customer's one and a different guy. Each one of those works differently, and each one of them have different requirements in terms of feedback, POD uploading, and the likes of that. Take it downstream to the drivers. I also want the drivers to have an app. So what does that then mean? That means that the drivers need to be able to have a smartphone with data, and they need to have the apps loaded onto all of those customers to be able to deal with that multitude. So it's wonderful that these customers are all embracing technology, but it's all being pushed downstream to the transport or logistics sector, who's now going to navigate through how to deal with all these technologies. Other interesting things that are coming is this this whole denied party or restricted party screening. Folks, this is a big thing. This is a big, big thing where globally, especially if you're dealing with the West or your customers dealing with the West, you're going to have to be starting to report about not only your shareholding, but who you're buying your goods and service from, be it tires, fuel, etc. And are there any restricted parties in those processes? So that is a big thing. Again, don't fight it. Get your head around it and understand how you can make that information available. They'll be putting out systems out there that you've got to populate. If you start planning towards it, when it comes, it won't be a shock for you. ESG, it's been mentioned about 2 or 3 times previously, massive consideration. And interestingly enough, if you take a look at the 2021 CO2 targets, we generate 34 billion euros in penalty payments. Let that sink in. That's an astronomical amount of money. So when shippers in Europe are now planning to ship, they are no longer just looking at the cost of transport. They're looking at the CO2 targets and the kilograms of CO2 that are being pushed out for that shipment. Because when you apply those penalties, so you might have a cheaper trucker or a cheaper way of transporting something. Once you apply the penalties, it's infinitely higher. And this is getting more and more focused. And if we think that down here in South Africa, that's not going to affect us, hey, I think again. Yeah, I'm no economist, but I'm kind of joining some dots saying that as a country, we're spending more money than we're getting in. We need to raise taxes. Personal taxes are maybe not that favorable, but it's very hard to dispel a green tax as not a right thing to do. So something to get our heads around. And I think that the sooner you get heads around that. The other thing is modern slavery. You'll also be looking and required to report on that. I don't think it's too big an issue here, but it's something that's coming and something that picked up and was a theme that came through very strongly at these conferences. So responsible trade as corporates. And these shippers are looking to all their suppliers to be compliant and to report and to integrate it to make reporting easier. So why is this real-time visibility not going away? Okay, this quest. Well, it's quite simple. I think we just blame it on the hamburger. And perhaps it's not just the hamburger. What about his good friend, the pizza? Or the pizza, if you're from Constantia in Cape Town. So what am I saying here is that, and it was mentioned earlier on, this whole B2C, business to consumer experience, okay, that you are experiencing, that your shipper's customer are experiencing, when they're ordering a hamburger or a pizza from Uber Eats or Mr. Delivery, they're getting this visibility for 120 Rand order. Yet, if someone's transporting a truckload of goods, let's say the cargo is worth 3 million and the transport is worth 30,000 from Cape Town to Joburg, they can't get that same level of visibility. And the customer's taking my B2C experience and saying, hey, I get this visibility on a hamburger for 120 Rand for a 3 million Rand purchase. You can't tell me where my truck is and what time it's going to arrive here. I'm not getting this. And that's going to continue to drive that mindset. And you can see just exactly these types of dashboards that the likes of E2Open are putting out there are taking a whole bunch of data points from various inputs and they're creating these dashboards and they're amalgamating all their deliveries to have dashboards and alerts so that they can work on exceptions and that they can advise customers and even give customers visibility unique to their specific order through this process. And it's driven by business to consumer. Even from a rates point of view, and take a look at this. They're talking around what is my best itinerary if I want to ship something from A to B. They're looking at the various options with rates, but not only rates, they're starting to report on CO2 as well. And based on that matrix, they'll make the decision. Again, what's driving that drive? What's driving that level of visibility? Well, it's something that's here already. Any of you booked a flight lately and you've climbed onto a website such as Cheap Flights? You take a look. You say, I want to fly from Johannesburg to Paris for last weekend. You arrive there on Friday the 27th, and it returns all the options to you with prices. And you can then make a call. And even this talks to CO2. And this will even blend cross airlines and number of stops. What are these platforms doing? These platforms are integrating and linking into rates for airlines as well as capacity on seats available. Now, in the transport space, where you're shipping something from the east to South Africa, you've got road transport, you've potentially got rail, you've obviously got shipping, and you've got the same on this side. All those combinations will be forming together to form something like this in this table over here. So that's coming. So think about when your customers are saying, I want you to integrate, or when there's people or platforms out there saying, I want to integrate, is your business in that right frame of mind to be able to want to integrate, to be able to participate effectively in these types of platforms? Because they're not going away. They're continuing. And these types of dashboards, they will just continue out there as well. There's a company called Crane. They have a presence here. They do worldwide logistics, and they very successfully have integrated into everything from airlines to shipping lines to customs authorities to warehouse tracking systems. The whole lot for them to participate is to be integrated. But keep in mind, you're going to be moving to a far more digital space. Don't neglect cybersecurity. The amount of people out there and unscrupulous people who are developing bots to just ping your systems and bring your systems down or infect your systems, it's insane. So when you go on this journey, when you start to open up and say, we're going to participate, we're going to make rates available, we're going to make our vehicles tracking available, we're going to make capacities available, just make sure that your cybersecurity is taken care of. And another reason why the real-time visibility is not going away is because of this guy. And he's not that happy because we won the World Cup. He's probably an All Black supporter the way he's dressed. This guy is a software salesman. And these guys are aggressively out there selling these types of systems. And if you take a look at in the Middle East and Africa, the transport management systems and these types of platforms that are being sold are growing by 20.7% per year. And so that is something that is not going away. So again, as a transporter, you can say to yourself, do I participate? I mean, as Transnova, we very often have people who don't want to give us tracking access to vehicles. They say, no, what's my IP? Or they say, no, I'm not going to give it to you because you're going to use it against me. Or I can't give it to you because my insurance company won't allow. The companies that are making it available are progressing. The companies that are making their rates available digitally, real-time and capacity are progressing. The ones who aren't are slowly falling by the wayside. And it's not for every shipper. I mean, some shippers, that we've got some customers who aren't that technology advanced. That's okay. But kind of understand where you're dealing with. So what should transporters do to stay relevant in this space? Well, I don't think you could say better than Einstein. You have to learn the rules of the game, and then you have to play them better than anyone else. I suppose the same as rugby, hey? And that is fundamentally important. So what do I mean by knowing the rules of the game? Let's use a simple example, such as Booking.com. I'm sure most of you have used Booking.com. When you climb on Booking.com, you'll take a look at here are my options. I've got a couple of hotels. Immediately I can see the price, and importantly, I can see stars and I can see a rating, and I can see a distance from where I want to be. So, but how do you get that? If I've got a guest house and I think, hey, I want to get a better score, I've got a rose garden in the front and I've put in a beautiful rose garden, and I think that's going to attract me more customers. Well, guess what? Nowhere under those scores of cleanliness, comfort, facility, location, staff, value for money, and then obviously the most important of all, if you've got teenage kids, is Wi-Fi, is a rose garden. So understand the rules of the game, just like people who run hotels and that. Understand those are the pillars that you've got to do. Those are the pillars that you're going to get scored against, and make sure you get those scores. Because in all of these transport management systems that you're participating on, as you're leaving a digital breadcrumb trail, it's all being scored and kept. And again, staying relevant. If you take a look at this, how's this interconnected world going? Those of you on Discovery would recognize this screen page very, very quickly. You can see we're being scored on as Discovery users on multiple efforts. And look at, just take for a moment and look at the interconnectiveness here. Connected into Pick and Pay, healthy shopping. You buy fruit and veg, you get a discount. Connected into airlines, connected into BP and Shell. If you drive better, well, how's that taken? Well, that's connected into your vehicle's tracking system. Harsh acceleration braking, you get penalized. Or baby city. Fortunately, that's not my problem. But so all these items are there, and guess what they do? Is they then score you real time. And if you take a look, and we then go to this exercise component. So for those of you, hey, on Discovery, it's Thursday. If you're behind, there's probably some of you sitting now shaking your watch to make sure you hit the steps. Why? Because that watch is interconnected. So you've got this whole interconnected world. B2C, customers are experiencing this, and that technology exists. So you start looking at technologies instead of these watches that we're looking at. What are we talking about in the transport space? We're looking at things such as temperature sensors in refrigerated vehicles, satellite tracking, and there's quite a lot of smarts around that, and even tracking devices that can stop a tipper truck from tipping at a certain point in time, or only tipping within a geofence zone. So interconnected goes right through to the vehicles, to your planning platforms, to your rates, and to your availability. Keep in mind, don't forget that digital breadcrumb trail that you're leaving behind as you're migrating through all these systems and as you're working there. So what should you do? First of all, don't fight these systems. Technology democratizes the transport landscape. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was only the big transporters who could participate with large customers. Large customers put in technology platforms, the same as what Uber is, democratize the taxi landscape, that it kind of opens up for all players. So it's a good thing. Secondly, learn to deal with multiple customer requirements digitally. You're going to get bombarded with, I need to use this app, I need to log on to this system, and you're going to throw people at the problem. But in the same way as your customers, if you look at that very bottom point down there, in the same way as your customers are embracing technology to meet their demands, there are technologies out there that can help you participate effectively against these multiple technologies. So in other words, have one platform that feeds these technologies via integration. Let's talk about your data. Remind you again, make your data integrated. If you haven't got a strong IT focus within your business, I'd strongly advise to get a strong IT focus, because this wave is coming, and you differentiate yourself by embracing these technologies. So integrating, be real-time, be transparent, be accurate. Embrace the Internet of Things and other technologies. So all those the IoT type devices that your customers might want, maybe even be proactive. And if you're in the refrigerated space, make sure you've got the most current and relevant temperature sensors that can integrate, so that when you have a cold chain that breaks, then you proactively tell the customer the cold chain break, not that when they pick it up on receipt that something doesn't smell right here, and then you go back and say, oh yes, it broke. So again, they're proactive. Hey, this cold chain broke, we're still 8 hours till delivery. Can I suggest we create a redelivery and a new pick for that? Understand how these transport management systems work. They issue loads, they score everything is scored on a transport management system, from how long it takes you to accept a load or reject a load, to the amount of loads you accept or reject, to the amount of loads that you've accepted and then you've given back because you couldn't do it the next day, which is kind of one of the biggest sins, to your arrival time, your departure time, to how quick you get a POD uploaded, to claims management, etc. Understand how those rating engines work. When I say rate, how they score you. In the same way as a guest house has got to understand how Booking.com works, or how you just understand how Discovery works. So once you understand that and you evolve your business to be able to score better, you will do better, because we're migrating to a digital world where you're going to be scored digitally in accordance with some requirements. Also, ESG, that's coming. Get a head start. And this restricted party screening is coming. Understand that as well. Embrace it when it comes, and don't forget the cybersecurity component of it. So in closing, carriers that drive performance change and achieve higher scores on these platforms promote themselves amongst shippers. And that's it from me, Harry. I hope I hit the time zone. I was just quite conscious of the time, so I did fly through it, but happy to take questions in the Q&A component, or if anybody wants to reach out to me, please take a look there. My email address and telephone number are up in front of there. Happy to further this discussion with you, or if you'd like to have take this discussion back to your organizations, happy to do that as well. And with that, I'll just thank you all for your attention and your interest.
Carsten, thank you very well. That's well done. You know, there's also a wake-up call to embrace technology and to understand, you know, how the world around us works. And fortunately, there are people like yourselves that can train people how this work and can guide people into this new digital world of ours. It's interesting to see the importance of visibility nowadays in the migration to the interconnected transport world. So you're saying that you can fight this, you're going to lose out. If you embrace it, then you're going to progress. So don't fight these systems. I'm quite sure they'll have some questions for you during the panel discussion. Thank you very much, Carsten. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, guys. Last but not the least, we're going to have a look at our last, or listen to our last presentation. This is Mr. Diederik Stophoff. He's the Sales and Marketing Exec for Skynet Worldwide Express. He is going to give us a view into the future for trade and logistics. Thank you very much, Diederik.
Thank you, everyone. I need to just get permission to share my screen. I see it's blocked me.
You can share now.
Okay, I trust everyone can see it.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you. It's what a nice morning. Carsten, I don't want to single out anyone, but Carsten specifically was exciting. It makes one nervous at the same time. But I think it's quite a nice kind of parting coming from him. And I think you reaffirmed it, that if you don't embrace this technology, you're going to be left behind. And yeah, so my talk quickly is about the future of trade and logistics. So I've already adapted it because Natasha and Gary and Louise has already mentioned a lot, and I think we all kind of under some sort of a time limit. So I've already adapted the presentation and made sure that there's not too much duplication. I'm going to try and, just from a Skynet perspective, point out what we see as the future of logistics. So everyone has obviously stated the obvious, the e-commerce growth, and just from a Skynet perspective, I can tell everyone that we've got clients where we've seen growth from about 10% on average to as much as 350% growth. And when we've gone to our client base, asked them what are they predicting for Black Friday and also for what we call the silly season or the peak season, what was interesting is the amount of them, very high percentage, that was unable to predict the future. And I think that is the future of logistics. It's become so unpredictable, specifically on the e-commerce side, because you've got customers that have shown growth from about 10% to 350%. And then you have to resource it accordingly. And so just from a last mile courier company, you have to make sure that you've got models in place that can react very quickly to the volume spike that you've got. So 1 minute a client gives you 5,000 parcels per day, and we've got a client like that's e-commerce orders from China. And literally in a day's time, it'll triple to 15,000 orders in 1 day. And you have to have the resources and the systems and the expertise to deal with it. And again, IT plays a big role. I think Gary's already alluded to the quick commerce. We've already got 3 clients on this quick commerce where we do a store-to-door delivery within an hour. Not only the delivery of the item, but in some cases, we've now further innovated where we've partnered with some kind of not even direct or indirect competitors, but someone that's already in the industry that does TV installation. So, for example, if you order a TV, Skynet will deliver it, and then the chosen partner will then do the installation. So not only have we reduced damages, we've given a customer experience second to none, that they know that they now can, for a nominal fee, get insurance from order to delivery, but also get an installation. So this whole quick commerce is really driving the future of logistics, and we've seen with Spar2U, which is the one Skynet is associated with, and also 6060, that consumers are now very well aware of the fact that not only can they get a delivery done within an hour, but they can get a delivery done within an hour and pay 35 Rand for it. We've also seen, because of the popularity of that that dark stores is now emerging. So the likes of Checkers and Spar and some other e-retailers have realized that it's become quite disruptive in their stores to facilitate these orders, and which is why dark stores are now going to become a very popular thing. Delivery innovation, more so than anything, we can see now that in the past, as last mile operators and logistics operators, you would have had kind of once every 3 years there would be another innovation or another advancement. We are seeing that if you don't have innovation within a few months, you'll already be left behind, especially if one considers the urbanization and the population growth in the South African context, where if you don't have a network where you can deliver something in the outlying areas as fast as you can in the more urban areas, you're going to be left behind. Of course, infrastructure development is a big thing, and I think Gary and SAEPA, we always engage with government where we say that the fact that load shedding and traffic lights and roads and all of those things, is a bit of a critical issue for the last mile operators that we have to resolve. I think the regulatory changes is already there. I think all of you, including Natasha, Gary, Louise, Carsten, everyone has spoken about the carbon taxes and how that's going to affect us. Again, the data analytics, we no longer tell customers, that we've delivered their parcels 99% on time. They don't find that interesting. What they want to know is, what are we doing about that 1%? And specifically in the e-commerce context, we have to give them business intelligence, using artificial intelligence and using their data to create heat maps so that we can, on a monthly basis, show these people where they've lost clients and where they've gained market share. So they don't just want a normal KPI presentation. They want data analytics that's going to help them increase their revenue, reduce their cost, and improve their cash flow. Otherwise, as I always say to customers, the distance between here and Cape Town and here to Durban is the same for all last mile operators. It's all the other information and value adds that actually makes the difference. I think apps is definitely, I think as a last mile operator, if you don't have your company on an app in the next maybe 12 to 18 months, you could be out of business. In 2 years, you'll be out of business. So if your last mile partners don't have apps that's completely integrated, and I think, again, Carsten has made some very good points there, that the information is so important to clients. And I find it fascinating that they not only looking at just the delivery expectation, but actually the itinerary that they now consider before they choose you as the last mile partner. I find that fascinating. Then, of course, sustainability. We all know that that's coming, and carbon tax, doing the responsible thing, which is why, as part to you, we've rolled out electric motorbikes. I think there's over 2,500 of those electric motorbikes that we're rolling out. And so, from a future of logistics, absolutely, I think very soon, most of us will have 90% of our fleet might just be electric vehicles. Robotics, we've seen some of our clients putting pressure on ourselves because they have effectively rolled out robotics. We have a specific client that has reduced their staff complement by 80%. So where they've had 200 staff members on a night shift, they've reduced that significantly, so that the entire shift could run on just 40 people, because they've got these yellow robotics that pick the parcel up. They weigh the parcel, by the way, at the same time, and drop it in a chute into the right area. So I think clients are going to start from the future of logistics, put pressure on us, because there's this drive to just continuously improve, but at the same time reduce your cost to serve. And robotics is going to become a thing that we will all need to consider. And we already talked with people in China and the specific client putting pressure on us to say, why can't you use robotics? I think the international collaboration and acquisition will continue. We've seen a lot of the international people buying up local companies. We've opted to do the reverse. We've opted to acquire international companies from a Scania perspective. So we've acquired businesses in London, Belgium, Germany, Australasia, and recently, because of the opportunity that we see in China, we've acquired operations in Hong Kong, so that we are again closer to our clients. So no longer can you just focus on the South Africa and Africa as a continent, and making sure that you've got wheels on the ground. You have to consider India, China, and all the other trade partners. The security and theft prevention, I think from a South Africa point of view, is a big problem. I know Gary and some of the people at SAEPA is well aware of this. I think the entire industry is seeing that to kind of cope with the theft and the crime out there takes a significant investment. Two of our biggest investments over the last 24 months have been firstly in IT, so also using information and data to manage this, but then also on the security side of it. We've made a significant investment because it's not a problem that's going to go away, even though I know that there's, from a SAEPA point of view and also from the Transport Freight Association, lots of pressure on government. We've heard Val Baartman on the likes of 702 and other TV and radio stations saying that they can no longer move cash without the government assisting from a military point of view, providing resources. Otherwise, the country will come to a standstill. And I think what was interesting for me there is that where we all thought that the use of cash is reducing, it's actually not. Val gave some stats saying that the trade in the Kasi economics is still mostly cash, and that they can no longer move that without the government, from one form or the other helping. And I see a lot of our competitors going through exactly the same challenges. I think the stats going around is 25 to 30 hijackings just in Gauteng per day amongst all courier and last mile operators, which is a big problem. And I think from the future of logistics, you cannot ignore that. If you ignore it, you ignore it at your peril. And of course, not just to move your clients' cargo safe, but to make sure that your staff are also looked after, and that we don't lose any staff while delivering these items. What we've done significantly there, just from a futuristic point of view, is we partnered with Fidelity Security so that all these bulk cell phones are moved in cash and transit vehicles, again embracing technology. We've seen some examples that Carsten has showed where these vehicles cannot open if it's not in a certain geographical area. So we've plotted out the 12 main shopping centers where, for example, we deliver all the Apple products. And those vehicles can only open, firstly, by the control room, and only if it's in a specific geographical area. And we've seen for the likes of 3 or 4 of our customers that we've just about reduced the losses, specifically the bulk eats. You still have 1 or 2 hijackings in specifically the high-risk areas or townships, as some of us call it. But in the whole, the kind of movement of bulk cell phones, we've just about stopped that. But at some stage, these people will from a syndicate point of view, we know that it's a case of when they will hit us. But I think from a future of logistics, you cannot ignore the security and theft prevention that we are all responsible. Then I hear a lot of people talk about China and America, and of course that's important. But I think one cannot ignore Africa. I think Africa is open for business, specifically, and I think some of the stats collaborates with what Natasha has said. If you just look at smartphone usage, there's already 5 African countries that has a high mobile ownership, 98 to almost 100%. And then roughly 40% of the African population was aged 15 years and younger compared to global average of 26%. So certainly from an e-commerce and economic growth point of view, a lot of people are looking at Africa. Quite interesting and off the topic, yeah. What we're also seeing is happening is we've had several approaches from some of our clients who has warehouses in Europe and in the States that have asked us for solutions to warehouse their items and the stock in South Africa and Africa. Seeing South Africa and Africa as a safer haven, one considers all of the political issues that's currently happening in Europe and elsewhere in the world. So that's quite interesting. Someone told me 5 years ago, 10 years ago that South Africa and Africa will be seen as a safer haven for warehousing, fulfillment, and distribution. That have taken that with a pinch of salt. And also Africa recorded not only the highest share of youth, but also the smallest elderly population worldwide. So, we own the offices of Skynet in Germany, and we can see the clients that we delivered there 65 years and older. So that also makes Africa kind of very interesting from an economic growth point of view. I think I'm going to spend most of the time on this, and I think some of what Gary has already alluded to and what Carsten's alluded to is this whole kind of omni-channel solution. We've embraced this about 18 months ago. So this kind of just depicts how it's changed. In the past, a parcel will come in, it will hit a Skynet branch, go on a line haul. If it's an economy service, we'll go on a truck somewhere else, or if it's a overnight urgent parcel, we'll of course fly it using Bidvest Air Cargo. We'll hit a delivery branch, and then normally it would go straight into a business or home delivery. Those were really the delivery options that was available, kind of the traditional delivery options. So you can see how already it's moved. So because of this massive Kasi economics opportunity, the banks, some of the e-commerce players, some of the financial institutions and others, I think there's about 12 verticals that we've earmarked, where we've built a solution for us to deliver our clients parcels into the townships, for lack of a better word. We call it the Kasi economics, where we've partnered with a company called Yetu. They use about 8,000 taxi drivers during what we call the dead time of the day to now deliver parcels for us. And again, to Carsten's point, giving clients visibility from the pickup to that delivery, even if the parcel is in the taxi. We've seen a significant kind of advantage in that. One is that we've helped the taxi industry, because they're also an industry that has their own challenges because of the cost of fuel. So they're also battling financially. So this is a revenue opportunity that of course helps them. And then secondly, we've seen a significant, and when I say significant, in our POCs that we've conducted in places like Mamelodi, we've had 0 incidents, 0. I think when I met with the owner of this business, he said to me, do you know of any taxi that's ever been robbed in a township? And I said, no. And he said, well, the next one will be the last one. And we've seen that in our case studies that we've delivered without any incidents. Then business and home deliveries, it's the traditional delivery. All that we've done there is we've gone asset light, and that also is the future of logistics. Spending the money where it should be spent, perhaps in IT and informations and systems, as opposed to in assets, owning your own vehicles. And I suppose there's different views on that. We've certainly taken that view. It's helped us to scale the business. So when, for example, we've got some of these e-commerce companies that all of a sudden has a 150% spike in volumes, we can scale it up with an owner-driver, SMME partner a lot faster than quickly employing 100 or 150 people. Because sometimes during the week, specific times, that is how quick we have to scale the business up from let's say 500 drivers per day to very quickly 650 drivers per day. So within the fact that freight hits your floor in the evening, by the next morning you need to have 150 extra drivers on your floor. We have the ability now to do that, again using technology and this type of business model. Then we've moved into a secure delivery solution in partnership with Fidelity and ADP, and then using some other technology called Secure Citizen, where we can use facial recognition at point of delivery. We've seen some legislative issues, specifically in the cell phone industry, where they're very soon going to make sure that all last mile operators use some form of facial recognition, fingerprint, in order for us to do a delivery, because of the high number of theft and fraud associated with cell phones. And then another delivery channel is Smart City. Most last mile companies battle to deliver to some of the security fenced off areas. Those areas have also reached out to us. Some of the bigger, like Plain City, have run stats where they say they, on any given day, would have 400 or 500 delivery vehicles run in and out of those security estates, which goes against what they're trying to create. They're trying to create a residential area where it's safe for people and kids to walk and play. And now with all these deliveries going into these security estates, it's created a problem, both from a security and a safety point. So the idea there is we build what we call a smart city, where Skynet will be in receipt of all of these shipments, and we do the last mile delivery in conjunction with Fidelity, where they own the security at those estates in any case. So they've already got the vehicle and the resources, again reducing the carbon footprint, because where possible we use electric vehicles. And secondly, they have to do perimeter checks in any case. so they can use their own resources. You don't need any other resources in those states. And also they know when the residents are home because of the alarm systems, etc. So the first time hit rate in terms of deliveries also now goes into the 99%. And then latest addition is SkyPoint, which is really a locker system that everyone is already aware of. That's happening. We've changed it slightly, making it more available to Kasi economics and to the outlying areas as opposed to just in the main centers. And also not just using it as a delivery point, but also as a storage point and a solution to the pharmaceutical industry. So we installed these in the hospitals, netcares, and so forth. So when we deliver medical devices, we deliver it to these locker systems, and then the locker system will notify via SMS to the relevant doctor or theatre nurse that the item is there. They go and fetch it. That way you make sure that the correct item gets delivered to the correct theatre. And also from a reverse logistics point of view, using SkyPoint as a reverse logistics solution. So that is as far as the kind of physical delivery goes. And then, of course, we've got counterpartners such as Pago, Baxi, Office National, and a couple of others. So I think in total, we've got about 5,500 counterpoints. Because to Gary's point, the days where you could rely on the post office is just completely gone. And every time we present to some of the bigger people coming to the shores of South Africa and Africa, they're all requesting some sort of a counter solution other than just the normal business and home delivery. So you can see, the future of logistics is not to just, rely on the normal traditional delivery. You have to be innovative all the time, and you have to take the South African context into consideration when you design the innovation, taking security, risk, information, all of that into consideration. That's the end of my presentation. My contact details are available. You can share it. I don't know if there's any questions from anybody.
Thank you, Dietrich. Much appreciated. We're going to do questions and answers now with the panel. So please stay where you are with your camera switched on. We really appreciate it. Such an interesting presentation. It's frightening to understand that if you don't embrace technology, you will be out of business one of these days. And and then there's the pressure for even robotics and trade partners and the security theft, and concerning hijacks. You guys are very dynamic in your business in terms of delivery vehicles, and we see even embracing biometrics and all this type of technology partnerships and so on. So we really understand what you're doing. So thank you very much for sharing with us, and we're looking forward to this panel discussion now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I kindly ask that all of the presenters, all the panelists, will you please switch on your cameras and unmute yourself so that I can bring you into the panel. Thank you very much. So all the panelists, please kindly also unmute yourself so that you can appear on my list so that I can bring you in. Yes, but unfortunately Natasha is not available anymore. All right, guys, now you're welcome to mute again. I've got you in the panel. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gents, also the guys on YouTube, you're welcome to text questions for the panelists in the text box there on YouTube. I will convey the question to the panelists. And we already have some questions in the chat room, but let's quickly give opportunity for anybody who want to ask a question. You can direct your question either to the panelist or the panel as a whole. And I'll ask Louise to moderate a little bit this panel discussion for us. Thank you, Louise. And so let's see. If you want to ask a question, you can either raise your hand or you can unmute yourself. And once I've recognized you, you can ask your question. Thank you very much. I think we can have, maybe I can be arrogant and ask a question. if you look at the international platforms such as eBay, they're also now using you guys for the distribution. I mean, previously they used the post office and so on. Are you guys also interconnected with them?
If I may just, perhaps not eBay, but two of the bigger international e-retailers, we've done formal presentations to. Some of them are known. I can't at this stage name them because we're under NDA, but full integration from them right up to the delivery point. And most definitely, one of them did use the post office at a much cheaper rate. They realized what the losses and the return ratios would be. And if they factor that cost back into the cost of delivery, they very quickly realized that they should rather use one of the courier companies in South Africa. And yes, a full API integration. I must say, I'm very proud of the South African market because some of the stuff that we've shown them is not necessarily available elsewhere in the world. There was a person that was based in Australia that, for example, they were fascinated with the type of technology that we already use in South Africa. It just shows you how innovative we are as a community and as a country. Our banking services is world class. We've now seen our rugby team has out-innovated some of the other countries around the world. And I was extremely proud to see how they were they didn't just meet with us, they met with 3 or 4 large courier companies. They gave us examples of where our API integration and technology advances is world class. It's better than what they've seen elsewhere, if that answers the question.
Thank you, Dietrich. Charles,
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Dietrich. It is very interesting because, and sorry, Harry, I think it is very interesting because very often, kind of if you say you're from Africa, the concept is that you are not digitized. And I think that is one of the things, as Carsten also pointed out, and I think Natasha and Gary mentioned that, we've realized that with technology, we can be smarter and move faster. So I think it is critically important that we recognize that. And also that one keeps it as open integration because one doesn't want to create these silos. As I mentioned in my talk, Dutch Customs is really working very closely with all the courier companies because they simply acknowledge they can't handle the volume and they need the data from you guys to actually drive the processes and everything. So I don't know, Harry, if there is a question from the audience, or otherwise I would like to ask maybe 1 or 2 questions.
Okay, there's a question here on YouTube. As a HCV supplier, how do you see the manufacturers be more in line with the technology industry? I suppose HCV is a heavy vehicle supply. How do you see the manufacturer be more in line with the technology industry?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the question correctly, but I think the one thing that already is going in, anyone that is buying new trucks from OEMs at the moment will kind of attest to the fact that the OEM guys are aligning with in terms of this tracking comes standard within a truck. So and that already feeds in. So products like 4Kites, which is a visibility tool that we use in the business, is already integrated into some of the OEMs' truck tractors. So as they come off the production line or as they get released in South Africa, we're already integrated. And obviously with the relevant permissions, you can then get visibility from that. And then I think the other big thing as well is just the drive to lower carbon footprints, better fuel efficient vehicles, and the likes of that. I'm not sure I'm answering the question. I don't think I quite understand it, but certainly, I think the OEMs are creating that visibility. So besides the tracking that you fit aftermarket, it's already coming standard within vehicles. And I mean, even those vehicles are sending signals back to OEMs, etc.
So, Carsten, you're very right.
Just...
Yeah. Sorry, Dietrich. I think Carsten is very right. I don't think we realize how much tracking data we've got available and the power of this data. And Dietrich, I wanted to ask you the question, and it would be interesting to your comment. You also said that they felt that it's safer to store goods in South Africa than other places. I mean, I'm stunned. Please tell us how you managed to convince them of that. So over to you.
Yeah, look, I think firstly they approached us, which is of course already, from a sales point of view, it helps the process because they've already kind of from a logical point of view, they've decided that they have to do something. Of course, what we had to do is just to prove the business case. This is a company, and this user case that I'm referring to, they move cash machines. So all of these cash machines that they would use in all the spaza shops, the cash and transit vehicle companies, etc., they move all these cash machines around South Africa and Africa. And cash in Africa is still a big thing. It's still the preferred method of payment. And they were saying that from a risk and cost point of view, both in UK and America, when they do any of the business cases in America, the salaries that they were paying for these things were just extremely high. And then secondly, in Europe and in UK, because of what's happening around the world, they see that as on their risk register, saying, wait a minute, it's a bit of a risk, let's rather move it to South Africa, and we've successfully done so. And of course, because the money moves mostly in Africa, because I think around the world, they've embraced all sorts of other payment methods with Apple Pay and digital cards and all of those things. But because the client base itself sits mostly in Africa, it made for an obvious choice for them to move it down. Of course, what we had to give them also is another IT solution where we could plug in a VAT and duty system that picks up the item. It looks at the tariff heading of the specific item, and it gives them a landed cost anywhere in Africa. And yeah, we've rolled out a solution to about 35 African countries. So, once we've proved the business case and once they've looked at the cost to serve from a warehousing, fulfillment and distribution, there were significant savings for them to move the warehouse to South Africa and then to distributors to Africa, if that answers your question.
No, that's fantastic. And again, that's where we're innovative. And I'm going to first rag Carsten a bit because he's new to the Cape. So we do pizzas, Carsten.
It's pizza and it's gluten-free in the Cape. I've noticed that.
No. You'll see some of the ladies actually made a comment about it. We are down to earth. We do pizzas. Okay, so you don't.
Not pizza. Okay.
Carsten is new to the Western Cape, but I think Derek, what you're saying is very true, and I think you and Carsten must definitely chat afterwards because one of the hidden secrets of Transnova is also around some involvement in the cash business. So Carsten,
Yeah.
I'll punting you, but Carsten, you wanted to say something. Over to you.
I've sent him an invite already. We're in the express business. I've sent Carsten an invite already. I recognize that there's some collaboration that we could do there. So yeah, most definitely, you're so right, Louise.
Fantastic.
Just interesting, on the cash front, I mean, we are involved in wholesale cash distribution in South Africa. So on the cash front, people always ask, should cash not be disappearing? And I've been fortunate to speak at a number of global conferences. Cash is anonymous. So as long as you've got taxes and you've got wives, cash is going to be there. Just know that.
I was going to say, ladies on the forum, and Kathy, thank you very much for your nice comment. If you cash short, get Carsten's detail. He can sort it out for you. I'm not talking about your husband's credit card. I'm talking about hard cash. So, Gary, maybe a question to you. Do you think, and I think it leads up to one of the questions that was typed in the chat as well, that we're doing enough to train and enable our younger generation to be part of this industry? Because I think we all recognize being in supply chain, being international supply chain, and being in the courier industry, you need to be tough. And I don't know whether we are actually doing enough to market our industry and to recognize the potential for job opportunities. I mean, it's the one area where we can really bring the youngsters in, and it's the one area that's also gender inclusiveness and diversity open. So maybe some comments from you whether we are doing enough work to make it attractive and get the youngsters involved in our industry.
Yeah, Well, let me reassure you that it's one of the biggest in, from a SAEPA perspective, it's the area that we're very involved with. So we structure the organization through what we call task groups. And the task groups are made up of, and in this case, all of the training and HR people from our membership, and they sit together and decide what they need. So we're very heavily involved with the tutors. We're very heavily involved with the likes of Da Vinci University. In fact, we've arranged funding and we've been involved in things like a BCom supply chain. We've done financing for up to 80 people that have gone through over the last few years. And then right down from basic skills through to much more sophisticated management skills. We're very heavily involved, and there is a lot going on. And I think, what is changing, though, is that historically, a lot of companies looked at government funding or TETA funding as a sort of a given. And so it was kind of free, although you do pay your levies, of course, and it's funded through that. But there's a realization over the last while that says this is going to be our cost. We can't rely anymore on funded mechanisms to train people. So upskilling, reskilling, all of those things are a massive focus of almost every company in the industry. So I'm very happy that it does take place. Whether it's ever enough, Louise, possibly not. But there's a heck of a lot that is going on. We're very, very active in that sphere. And of course, it's a changing environment. The kind of skills requirement changes from time to time. So there's these delays, if you like, from the time that you identify a need and a skills shortage to actually find the appropriate training programs and to get them approved and so on and get them in is sometimes very frustrating. But I think it's an area where all of us all of the associations, SAF, RFA, ourselves, it's an area where we're very heavily involved. So yeah, there's a lot going on.
No, Gary, I think that's wonderful to hear. And I think that's something that we should keep top of our mind, because the one way we can create the job opportunities in the private sector is by doing, bringing the youngsters in, creating this if I can call it industry pipeline, and filling it from the bottom. And I know that the RFA yourselves are doing some good work in this area, but I think us from industry point of view must push and participate more. I have to refer to Nikki Scott's initiative with her training of female truck drivers, and now she always used the example that she eventually discovered somehow the ladies can drive the trucks in Joburg, but in Cape Town we struggled. So we're now doing some work in terms of the courier industry to actually train the ladies on the motorbikes and all of that. And Nikki said to me the other day, the only thing she's not doing is we're not teaching the ladies how to drive trolleys. So I said to her, okay, Nikki, we'll draw the line there. But I think those are the kind of things where we can also hold hands and start developing certain segments of the industry and pushing that. So it's fantastic. And
we've been involved with Nikki, for several years now on that, and it has been a bit of an uphill job to get people to open up to women couriers, particularly. I know I can tell you now, there are many of them. My wife is an avid e-com shopper, and so we have many, many female couriers arriving at our doors. But I think one of the problems, and on this transport forum, about 2 years ago, and I'm trying to think now, it was Patrick O'Leary actually. We were talking about the security, given this high rate of hijackings and theft. And hijackings these days is more about an armed robbery of the vehicle. And the danger, and Diederik mentioned, one of the key problems that people in the industry face, how do you protect your staff? So fine, the goods go, they can be replaced, your staff can't. And so there's a big concern about that. And then came around the issue about women particularly being more vulnerable in this respect. And on this forum, it was a huge debate between whether you can discriminate against women because they might be more vulnerable. But it's something that I think has been adapted. I don't think, from my perspective, that there's anybody that I know of that does not embrace the fact that here is and also just there's a logic. There's a logic around gender. There's not only is it it helps your scoring, but there's a logic around this. If you exclude women from your hiring practices, actually you're excluding 50% of the market. So and the other thing that's changed, young ladies coming out of school are also not necessarily worried about whether the truck driver is no longer or a courier driver is no longer the stigmatism. It's actually quite acceptable. So so I think a hell of a lot has happened over the last few years. Nikki has been, and her organization has been phenomenal in driving this particular process. And her and I have agreed that the courier industry is, because it's light vehicles, because it's possible that you can have a family and do your day job, whereas if you're a long distance trucker, it's a little bit more difficult. That it is it's a prime candidate. Scooter drivers, I can tell you there is a massive problem in recruiting any scooter driver that is a South African. Whether it's male, female, it makes no difference. There's a massive shortage. So so Nikki's doing a great job, and we support her wholeheartedly on this.
No, Gary, thank you, and Dietrich and Carsten, thank you very much. I'm just cognizant of the time. And I think, Harry, there we've already got our first topic of discussion next year. We're going to do some analysis and see how we can actually promote this particular angle and see the improvements and the developments that has been done. I think it is critically important, both from a youth side and from the other side. Kathy, I see your hand. I maybe just want to quickly share a story, and it was actually quite interesting because you never think about it. But TFG Group has obviously got the at-home brand, and they recently bought Choreocraft. And I was just chatting to them around, when you buy a couch or whatever, they've actually crafted out such a unique recognition of customer service, where they said that person is bringing that piece of furniture into your life and actually enters your house. So they've identified that those people doing it for you is their brand ambassadors, and the skills and the training they've given to them is completely different to just normal delivery. And I think that is very unique in recognizing sometimes. Gary, you're quite right. I'm not an avid online shopper, but my partner is. And I'm just about on first name terms with the guys that come at various times. Dietrich, we often have a Skynet guy here. And I think it is important, that's something that we can also possibly look at and develop further, that they realize they're the front of your company. They might not work for you directly, but they are still your company. So I'm going to give Kathy the last word here because I see her hand is up. Harry, unless somebody else has got a hand up.
Charles Day also been trying to ask a question for some time, but he just said he has to leave. So then it's still on the call.
Charles, I'm so sorry. I didn't see. Is Charles gone?
It seems he's left.
Okay. Shall we give Kathy the opportunity, Harry?
Yes, please. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you very much. And then thank you again for the content. I think it's great. I just want to go a few steps back to the team talking about some of the work that Nikki's doing around the CTA and some of the driver development. I think what we often miss is that we have a customer, I have a specific customer that at a parallel level, they have got their own commercial professional driving academy. They train almost 1,000 drivers a year, and they use their airline logbook methodology. So in other words, those drivers that go into the industry, and although they have a very specific focus, and that is obviously on the dry bulk commodity sector, and that is also running PBS trucks. So essentially, you've got high-performing vehicles with greater payload, and we all know that it does 33% less roadway. But I think the principle is that what we often forget, and it's so important that we must definitely highlight all the good work that Nikki does. I mean, we've come a long way with Nikki and all the other work that she's doing in her team, but even the development of the safer stops, I think we very often, we may miss what the industry is doing. This specific operator has invested over R1 billion in driver ablution facilities, driver training facilities. And as I've indicated, they've got a dedicated driving academy. And the drivers, when they leave, they've done 150,000 kilometers with a logbook. And in fact, obviously, the industry then can also recruit the drivers. So I think the principle of the industry investing in drivers and local communities. And what is also important is that the same as what Nikki has done in the Atlantis area, you're sourcing from the communities, particularly if there's hardship or there's not job opportunities. The same principle applies with many of our operators. They go to doorstop communities. So I think, and I love what Louise said, maybe there's something for next year. And it'll be great to give some airtime, but around good stuff that's being done by the industry, actually promoting good quality jobs, great opportunities, and then also uniquely that these drivers are walking away with a logbook of driving excellence, and they earn while they learn. Anyway, so I think the short version is, if you look at the safer stops, so the safer stops will be focusing on a lot of the engine garages and obviously some of your bigger truck stops. But I think there'd also be opportunity to actually give some great exposure to what the industry is doing quietly. In the background, you would be absolutely blown over by the investment, by the industry in their driver training facilities. As I've indicated, this customer's invested over R1 billion across various depots. So I think those are excellent. And I love what, I've forgotten his name now, that he spoke about South Africa. We don't stand back when it comes to excellence. We've got pockets of excellence all over. Private sector has absolutely stepped up and made a difference and do make a difference. But anyway, Harry, I just thought, I want to just bring that in, that maybe for next year sometime, when we do talk about perhaps some investment and some of the training, obviously there's women-specific training, but at an industry level, maybe we can give some airtime to some of the industry initiatives, and I'm happy to provide that kind of info, because I think it's a big celebration. I think we under acknowledge what industry is actually doing with no fanfare. They just get on with it, and that I love. And thank you again for an awesome program. Thank you.
Could I just add to another aspect, and that Louise touched on it when she was talking about furniture delivery. So what we find in the courier industry, bearing in mind that the majority of our people are driving smaller vehicles, 3.5 ton, maybe up to 8 ton. Now, of course, you do get your line haul vehicles that are running rigs and so on, but generally speaking, the majority of the fleets are probably even in the 1 ton range. So driving skills are almost taken for given. You've got to be able to drive. That's the first step, okay? But what's important is that when you're out there, you're the brand ambassador for your company. And you have to have a reasonably high level of product knowledge, because when the customer engages you, you can't have a guy that says, I don't know, phone the office. Okay, he's expecting more than that. So we're finding, and have done for many years, that courier training actually starts to encroach onto customer service elements, onto product knowledge. So if you're an international, delivering an international package, and the guy has had to pay maybe duties and so on the thing, and he wants at least some basic questions to being answered by the person doing the delivery. So a lot more around courier driver training than the physical training of driving a vehicle. And we've got to differentiate ourselves in that respect. So it goes back to what you said, Louise, about Choreocraft, I think it was.
Yeah, no, and I think that is something that is also, it's a step further, and even actually just having, customer relationship mindset, it's not just the box that you're bringing, it's actually the experience you're bringing. And I think that for me is something we can explore next year in great detail. Harry, I don't want to steal too much more time. I think we must close. So I'm going to hand back to you. Firstly, just thanking our panel for an excellent session and very engaging. Diedrich, thank you. Carsten, Gary, wonderful talking to you guys. Let's bring the Cricket World Cup home. Next time I will be able to do this again. And Harry, over to you for the closing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Louise, and all our panelists. I think we can give them a very big hand. It was an excellent session. Thank you for all the knowledge sharing. We really appreciate it. And from the Transport Forum perspective, we would like to also thank Global Trade Solution for hosting us. Also with South African Express Parcel Association, really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you guys again next year. But yes, there are still going to be events this year. We also have on the 5th of December, the Transport Forum's year-end celebrations. Will be a hybrid event from Radisson Blue and Kempton Park. And yeah, so hopefully we see a lot of you guys there as well with lots of exhibitions and so on. So thank you very much again. And please take care. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.